when it comes to the best.
You know, somebody said, Diesel, that the NIL conversations were only supposed to be before the season started. The NIL conversations, once the season starts, you know, they're supposed to be plated. They're not supposed to be discussed. However, guess what? They are. Are you surprised?
Are you telling me that South Carolina is committing NIL violations and they're about to get hammered?
Surely not, because it's probably happening everywhere, right? However, huge news today for the Gamecocks in a very good way, a very positive way when it comes to one of your best players on your football team. Welcome into Wire to Wire. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. This is the Fan Upstate. Gamecock fans, if you haven't heard yet, one of your guys is fixing to get a significant bump. That's right, Dylan Stewart, South Carolina. Jordan Kay of the state newspaper, who we have on the show regularly, Diesel, reported today that Dylan Stewart set to receive a big NIL bump. Now, college players making millions, literally, not figuratively. How does that change how we hold them accountable after a bad performance? We'll get into that. We'll also get into the details of what we know about the situation, but you and I have talked about it a lot already. When it comes to this team, they've had a great year, but Shane Beamer's job not only is to win games now, but also figure out how to retain the guys he has, Diesel, for next season.
Yeah, it's plagued South Carolina over the past couple of seasons, Cole, that when somebody has a great year, they get plucked. They go somewhere else.
True.
There's a couple of guys that went to Florida State. Shane Beamer made it a big deal about, I forget who it was off the top of my head, the guy that came back to South Carolina from Florida State, Juice Wells, took the big payday from you, didn't play, then took another big payday from Ole Miss to go over there. You had the guy that went off to Oregon. And
is that Birch, I believe?
Yeah, Jordan Birch.
Yep.
And hey, I mean, this is it's been a known issue for South Carolina. So not only are bigger programs, more prestige, more playing time a concern, now it's, can we afford to keep paying them what it takes to keep them on our roster?
True.
And that's been a tough sticking point for them.
And I think, Diesel, before we get into the details of what Dylan Stewart's getting bumped up to, I think what you brought up is why a lot of programs, including Alabama, are hiring general managers for the program. Because, as much as we hear, hey, NIL's only during the offseason, we know that's not true. That's not happening. You have to retain guys based on their performance, right, before they get poached, like JD said on the YouTube stream. Good to see JD and DB already in the chat. Diesel, the reality is Shane Beamer, not just Shane Beamer, but coaches in college football in 2024 and beyond have to coach to win the games. They have to recruit. They have to manage their roster. But at the same time, somebody, whether it be the coach or a GM, somebody has to actively recruit the guys they have. I don't know if Beamer's doing that for South Carolina. I don't know if they have somebody else that's doing that. But whoever's doing it did a good job because, to JD's point, Ohio State, Georgia, somebody's going to come after Dylan Stewart, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why I keep putting this forth. Nobody ever really takes it and runs with it. Not that, I have the ability to change anything, but I'm going to scream it into the ether anyway.
Yeah.
There needs to be a payback structure, right, for the team that is accepting the transfer, because the university is getting the player that the NIL collective is paying. The university is not paying them yet until that comes down. But look, if South Carolina spends a year developing Dylan Stewart, if he were to transfer, whatever school he's going to should have to pay back a portion of that developmental cost. That's whether it's a portion of scholarship, whether it's a portion of the estimated cash value of everything that a player receives in his calendar year at that school, wherever he goes, should be paying that back. I mean, when coaches leave, so this was always a sticking point for a lot of people. Coaches can just up and go whenever they want to. Well, yeah, that's true, but there's a buyout involved.
Sure.
And there's no buyout involved with these players. And players can have just as big an effect as coaches on a team's success. So I think there needs to be some form of a buyout structure so that if Georgia were to take away a South Carolina player, or if Ohio State were to take away an Alabama player, whatever it may be, you need to pay them back some sort of a buyout to help them recoup some of the money that was spent to get that player to where they are.
No, I'm with you there. I have no issue with that.
And then they might think twice as to whether or not we really want to accept this guy.
Hopefully they would. Hopefully they would. So, again, Jordan Kay of the State newspaper reporting this today. He reports that Dylan Stewart's representative is in talks with South Carolina and the school's NIL collective, the Garnet Trust, about a one-year deal worth upwards of $7, not $5, not $6, but 7 figures. Diesel, we all know how good Dylan Stewart's been this season. He leads all freshmen at the FBS level with 5.5 sacks. He was just named one of the 14 semifinalists for the Maxwell Football Club's Sean Alexander Freshman of the Year award.
2 forced fumbles.
Huge award, by the way. That's a very big award. It's expected to give Stewart, who was making less than $500,000, so we don't know the exact number, but let's just say somewhere between $350,000 and $450,000. That's what he was making. the most lucrative NIL deal of anyone on the Gamecocks roster. 2025 roster and beyond. We know you mentioned a few of those already that, have kind of flirted with that at South Carolina. But by season's end, Diesel, there might be a case that Dylan Stewart has had the best freshman season in Gamecock football history, which would, and I know it's a lot of money, but that would be indicative that the money they're going to give him is worth writing the check for, right? Because he's had that good of a season.
Well, you hope that you don't end up with a just got paid syndrome where next year stats start to drop off. We saw it with Dak, we saw it with Deshaun, we saw it with Trevor Lawrence. We see it with all kinds of big players, right? Mm-hmm. And I know there's some South Carolina fans out there saying, well, why can't we lock him down for 2 years? Why can't we, imagine if you could put forth a large enough NIL deal. And this feels like an insane concept by modern standards, to keep a guy in school for 4 years, to keep a guy playing for your team for 4 years.
Is that possible, by the way?
Yeah, I mean,
is that allowed?
They all go to the NFL after their junior year, but imagine if you could pay them enough. God, because think about this.
College football would be great.
Like Dylan Stewart, as just extrapolating how this could go. If it's $7 million for his sophomore year, what if they're paying him $8 million for his junior year and $10 million for his senior year? That's more than he's going to make on a rookie deal in the NFL.
It's a lot of money.
I know there's always the risk that you injure yourself in your senior year and you hamper your NFL career or end your football playing career.
Well,
but I mean, by God, you're making a ton of money.
It's a ton of money.
You're leaving money on the table. And then we had that conversation with Caitlin Clark last year, leaving money on the table by going to the WNBA and not playing another year in college.
So he's already, Diesel, on pace to break Jadeveon Clowney's South Carolina freshman sack record of 8, right? Which was also the SEC record in 2000 or until 2024. I can't speak. Until 2014. Stewart, Diesel, is also expected to be the Gamecocks' first freshman All-American since Jadeveon Clowney. And we talk about Jadeveon Clowney as one of the best ever in South Carolina. And this kid's, look, I mean, you also have to give a lot of credit to the Garnet Trust. I mean, that NIL collective, they've upped their game, and you have to credit them. Shane Beamer, they are putting a lot of resources into the Garnet Trust to make deals like this happen, to prevent guys like Dylan Stewart going to an Ohio State, because somebody out there would offer him more money.
I would love to know from you, Cole, and from the Tolos who are listening right now, just an informal poll. Have you ever given money to an NIL collective? And would you ever give money to an NIL collective?
Good question.
Because that money's got to come from somewhere, right?
Yep.
Those Garnet and Trust, those deals, like they probably come from multi-million-dollar investors who are putting money into not like business investors, but just an alumni who's got a ton of money, right? Puts $100,000 or puts $500,000 or puts $1 million into the collective. I mean, some people give $20, $50, $100, but man, I've never put money into an App State collective, and I never will.
So to answer your question, no, I have not. I've never given to an NIL collective. My answer right now is I'm 99.9% sure I never will. Again, there's a 0.1 percentage.
It's gambling. It's gambling with no guarantee on return on investment.
What's your return, though?
You get no return. I mean, maybe
a team's championship.
Maybe you get joy for a year. That's at best. You're making a 1-year investment, a 1-year gamble, because you have no idea if that player is going to up and leave after this year, right? What if you put money into a collective because you want to keep a certain player and he leaves? Anyway, can you get your money back? No, you can't.
No. So one of the questions that, as I was reading this article by Jordan Kay of The State today, I asked the question, like, Diesel, we cover different levels of athletics on this show, right? We do high school football, we do college, we do pro. I interview high school players, I interview college players and pro players. You have to be how you interview each one's different, right? You can go to a Panthers game Sunday, Diesel. Well, not this Sunday because they're in Munich, but you can go to a Panthers game and you can ask an NFL player a really tough question. You can do that because they're getting paid millions of dollars, right? You can't ask that same question to a high school or a freshman in college, right? However, something that kind of just kept coming to me today as I was reading this was, look, this changes the way that we do our jobs. This changes the way that the media does their job. Now that college players are making millions of dollars, can we actually bring fair criticism and not be scared to hold them accountable, Diesel, when they have a bad performance? Because that's what we do in the NFL. So if we do that in the NFL, why can't we do that in college if they're making millions of dollars? I think we should. I think we can.
Yeah, there needs to be structure involved where players who are getting NIL need to be made available to the media every week, every 2 weeks, whatever it is. Some form of a structure. You know, you're not gonna take $7 million from our NIL collective and then go hide and never come out and speak to the media.
I like that.
It is your job now, right? It is your job, and this is one of the things, Cole, that I brought up a couple different times over the course of NIL being a thing. Right? How long until these student athletes no longer have to be students anymore? Like, how long until they become simply athletic representatives of the university, not athlete and not students? They don't go to class because class, Cole, could affect their eligibility.
Yeah.
Right?
Like North Carolina.
Class also affects their exactly. Underwater basket weaving classes at North Carolina, famous for them. Heck of a program. No, I mean, how do you limit a guy's ability to go out and collect on his name, image, and likeness?
Yeah.
If he's got to spend time doing homework. You know, there's a lot of reasons why student athletes, and they haven't done it yet, but I guarantee you it's coming, that they will say, you know what? I don't want to do school. I'm not here to do school. Who was the Ohio State quarterback that said, I didn't come here to major in
I'm
school?
with you. I know who you're talking about.
They said it. I can even see the guy's face, but I can't think of his name off the top of my head. Eventually, they're going to sue because they've sued and won everything to this point, right? They're going to sue and say, hey, guys, we don't want to be held to any kind of academic standard whatsoever. Or they could say, we want to defer this after we're done. Whatever. I think it was Cardale Stewart. I think it was Cardale.
Cardale Jones? Was it Cardale Jones?
Cardale Jones?
Might have been. Tolos, you can get in on the conversation about NIL, about Dylan Stewart, 71307. That's the text line. You can also call the show 844-FAN-PHONE. That's the Renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone, 844-326-3663. Huge show coming your way. We have our high school coaches spotlight, Tolo takeover at 5 o'clock today. So already be thinking of how you're going to take over these airwaves at 5 p.m. We had a really big turnout last Thursday. We're looking for an even bigger one today. And also, even though we're not talking upset picks right now, you can still get your upset picks in. The challenge is open, 71307. We've seen several already come in on the text line. And speaking of the text line.
Here it is. It was Cardale Jones.
Was it Cardale Jones?
Cardale Jones tweeted, why should we have to go to class if we came here to play football? We ain't come to play school. Classes are pointless. Eventually, they're going to sue to make that the rule.
That's a great tweet, man. JD on the text line getting in. He wants Oklahoma State plus 10.5 over TCU. JT and Greer Diesel, he does agree with you on the buyout. He says, I agree with Diesel. A buyout is a must. I like that a lot.
If you want to call it 50% of the value of an annual attendance of a school, or 75, whatever it might be, right? So if you're a freshman and it costs $100,000 to put somebody through school and all the training and all the meals and all that stuff, then the school you're transferring to has to pay back a penalty of $50,000. I mean, why Cole, does South Carolina have to pay Texas A&M for rushing their field, but South Carolina wouldn't have to pay Texas A&M for taking a quarterback or taking a player away?
Yeah, you would think. I mean, that kind of seems like it makes more sense, right?
I think it should. And I even think it should ramp up as you get deeper and deeper into a guy's tenure in college. So if it's 25% freshman year, if it's 50% his sophomore year, 75% of a junior year, and so on.
To kind of put a tail on this conversation, a TAIL for you Tiger fans out there, that while we're talking about Dylan Stewart, while we're talking about this NIL bump, a 7-figure payday coming soon for Dylan Stewart. Diesel, I want to ask the question and kind of flip the script, if you will, before we finish this segment out. Clemson fans, you're out there today. You're in Spartanburg. You're in Greenville. You're in Anderson listening to the show. You're all over. We have Tolos in Somerville and Texas. Tell us all the time they're listening to the show. How does this make you feel as a Clemson fan? How does this make you look at NIL, look at what your football coach does with not just a portal, but NIL? And I know Dabo and Clemson, they have an NIL department. They use NIL, but they've been very clear, Diesel, that they want to use NIL for their guys, right? For the guys they have in the locker room and on the roster. I'm just curious how this makes Clemson fans feel when you see a guy in Columbia that, like I said yesterday, is willing to do whatever it takes to make sure he gets the best and retains the best. Well, I think this is a great job by South Carolina.
So 2 points I want to bring up there. Remember what Mark Schlereth said to us last week about free agency?
About the bleep?
You're buying – no. He says when you're getting guys in free agency, you're basically taking another team's trash, right? You're taking a player that they were willing to get rid of. Mm-hmm. Are there guys on Clemson's roster? And I'm talking about the seniors. I'm not talking about Phil Maffa or Cade Klubnik. But are there other guys on this team that other schools would really want that badly? Could you name more than about 5 guys on Clemson's roster that another team would be willing to throw the bag at to get them off of Clemson's roster? I mean, Phil Maffa is a senior. Doesn't matter with him anymore. So there's Cade, maybe Wade Woodaz, Sammy Brown.
Yeah, you got your wide receivers.
A wide receiver or two. Bryant Wesco. Mm-hmm. Outside of that, Cole, who else? Who else does another team really want off of Clemson's roster? And that right there is telling as well.
Well, it is. And, I just am really curious how Clemson fans feel about it. And Texter says, according to On3, Cade Klubnik's NIL deal is worth $568,000, which, just over $500,000. Texter says it's probably a lot more than that. And I don't know what his NIL deal. It may be $500,000. It may be more, but Dylan Stewart was not making, $750,000, but now, he's going to be bumped up to 7 figures, which is substantial. I just don't know that. And the reason I asked the question is I don't know that any Clemson fan sits here today, Diesel, and hears you and I talk about South Carolina being aggressive and getting Dylan Stewart. I don't know that anybody really sits here and says, man, I feel good about where we are. I feel good about the state of the 2 in-state programs. You can't feel that way if you're a Clemson fan.
Well, something that another thing that Mark Schlereth told us the other day, hope is not a plan. Yeah. And it feels like Dabo is hoping that somebody will come and fix this before it's too far gone for his program to be able to come back from the brink, right? He's hoping that the NCAA will get control of this. He's hoping that a new structure creates itself and there's a collectively bargained deal and all this thing. He said, I don't want to coach in professional college football, whatever, right? He's just hoping that it will right itself. And by extension, Clemson fans are hoping that this system will right itself, because Clemson is, if you're only paying Cade Klubnik $568,000 a year, you are vastly underpaying for a guy who just a week ago was looked at as a guy that was going to be headed to New York for the Heisman Trophy conversation.
Jonathan Brooks on the Facebook stream says it's out of control and will continue to be that way until some type of financial resources come into play. Brandon Gosnell on the Facebook stream says D lineman Parker or Woods. Yeah, and look, you're right. There are some guys. Obviously, Diesel and I aren't going through the entire roster, but I just don't know, man. I don't know that Clemson fans can really feel good about where the future of college football is headed with the guy you have leading your program. I could be off. I could be wrong. He could prove us wrong, but I'm just telling you how I feel. All right, Diesel, Want to let the Tolos know real quick. Yeah. We do have a big programming note. There is not Byrnes football tomorrow. I know that usually I'm at a stadium tomorrow. There will not be Byrnes football tomorrow. So those that are usually listening, even Harold from Greenville, no Byrnes football tomorrow. I wanted to get that out.
That's sad. Cole, when we come back, we were talking the other day about gambling on the presidential election. Guess what? a French frog out there, has made a tremendous amount of money gambling on the U.S. selection. We'll get into that. And let's do a little wagering ourselves and play the odds of what skill position players do we think will actually be Carolina Panthers next year. That's coming up next on the Fan Upstate. I don't like it, Cole, when foreigners get rich off our elections. We were talking about it last week and about the tremendous amount of money that was gambled on the results, the outcome of the presidential election. What'd you say it was? Like 60 million?
Yeah, but it went up a ton that night.
Yeah.
Like
so that was just domestically, right?
Yeah.
In the U.S. So. I don't know how much was gambled globally on this.
Yeah, a lot.
But a French mystery gambler, referring to himself as only Theo, bet $30 million that Trump would win, and he profited $50 million off of that $30 million bet.
How do people not have that much money, but think about it,
are willing to lose?
That's what I'm saying.
That much money.
If you are willing to gamble $30 million, how much do you have?
Right?
God.
Right? Like, I've only been to a casino a few times in my life. The problem is I love going to the casino.
I do too.
But I have a rule, Cole, where I walk in there with $100 in my pocket, and I'll play until I'm out of money. And if I really, really want to, I'll go get another like $50.
Yeah.
So
you gotta have a limit.
And at that point, you go to the bar and you have a drink. You lose $150.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt. Like I'm not rich. I'm not a rich man. Obviously, I'm here doing this. So it sucks to lose more than $150, $200. After that, I'm done. But yeah, he won $50 million on a platform called Polymarket.
Yeah.
Betting that Donald Trump would win the election.
Polymarket, just for the record, Polymarket, not to get into a conversation here about politics, but Polymarket was what I was watching. A buddy of mine, Polymarket was what I was watching as the night went on to see who I thought would win. And Polymarket was, it combines like all of the odds and all of the wagers. It was, I don't know what the history of the Polymarket's been, but Polymarket was dead on this year.
So
and it continued to.
Do you want to know his method? Because he revealed his method.
Oh, really? Yeah.
This may help you. This may help other wagerers in our audience. He claims that he used the neighbor method. So I guess when people walk out of an exit poll, they're not always truthful with who they voted for. And some people don't want to tell you at all. So you get a much smaller sample size.
Sure.
But what pollsters figured out and what this Theo figured out was that people are much more willing to rat out who they believe their neighbors were going to vote for. So they would say, I don't know what the rules were, but like, hey, neighbors on both sides of you. Is that guy to your left voting Trump or Harris? Is the guy to your right voting Trump or Harris? And people were much, much, much more willing to tell who they thought their neighbors were going to vote for. So it turns out that's much more accurate information.
It's smart.
Yeah,
it's smart.
The exit polls, I guess, were leaning Harris, and the neighbor polls were leaning Trump. So he said, I'm going with the neighbor polls because neighbors will rat on neighbors.
That's great.
In a heartbeat.
That's great.
So really, really fascinating. Number one, that you can now gamble on elections, and that this Frenchman won and $50 million.
One other thing about that, I don't know what other people's philosophy is on like if they did gamble on it or not. I did, not much. I mean, not what, 30 million. Don't worry.
Just 25?
Just 25 million. That was it.
Yeah.
I didn't gamble on who I wanted to win or thought would win. I only gambled on who the plus money was. And the only reason was if I lost, I lost, which I did, but I gambled on the better odds. So plus money, you're betting a smaller amount to win a greater amount. Trump was minus money. So if you would have on certain books here domestically, if you bet on him, you were going to have to bet more than you won. Obviously, different books are set up different ways, and different sites are as well. But I took the plus money. I do that in sports too. A home underdog, right?
Yeah.
You bet a little, win a lot.
Speaking of putting a little money on it, playing the odds a little bit. Tolos, we need your wire-to-wire upset picks. 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. Give us your name, your game, and the spread of a game that you think this weekend the betting underdog will win the game outright. We got a message in from Hurst, who's taking Georgia Tech over Miami. That one's worth 11 points. Wesley Roberts is taking Michigan plus 14 against Indiana. That's who you took, right?
Michigan.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's see. Brandon Gosnell taking Georgia Tech plus 11 over Miami.
Wesley probably didn't know that, by the way.
MTC Scott from MTC Federal Credit Union. He's taking Ole Miss plus 2.5 against Georgia. He's a banker, man. He's playing it conservative. I get it.
Yeah, I like it.
John Dog, Oklahoma State over TCU for 10.5 points. Get those in. We're still copying and pasting them, adding them to the list. We are at 56 picks, which Cole is short of where we need to be at this point. So that means a lot of Tolos are going to lose 2 points if you don't get your pick in.
Need more.
We got to remind you.
We got to go. Let's go.
That's what happens. You don't get a pick in. You lose 2 points. You get a pick in.
Don't wait
it's
till
wrong.
Friday.
Yeah, don't wait till
Do
Friday.
it today.
Help us out. Help us out. So, Cole, the Carolina Panthers, we've talked to David Newton. We've talked to others about what might happen with this roster. Trade deadline is coming up on – what's the trade deadline?
For NFL?
Yeah.
Oh, Tuesday. Yesterday.
Yeah, it was yesterday.
Or 2 days ago, sorry.
Okay, so it's come and gone. No more movement off of this team before the end of the season, Cole. But I find it fascinating, and we can go by a percentage chance that we think certain big-time players are going to be back on the Carolina Panthers roster next year. We're not going to go down the entire roster, Cole, but let's look at maybe a dozen or so of the biggest and best players. Now, there's a couple that we know without a doubt.
Do they have
are going to be
a
back.
roster still? Do we know?
Yeah. They're going to fill with somebody. Maybe Nicole Tepper, since she's been out there scouting the D-line, maybe she can go out there and play some D-line.
Now, I met with the team. There is no team.
Xavier Leggett, he's staying. Jonathan Brooks, I mean, he hasn't even gotten on the field yet. He's going to stay. Chuba Hubbard just signed to a new 4-year contract extension, so he's going to be around next year. Chuba Hubbard is quietly one of the better backs in the NFL this year. 133 carries, so he's 11th in the league in carries. He's 5th in the league in total yards of 665. He's 14th in the league in touchdowns with 5, and he's averaging 5 yards carry in the NFL.
Not bad.
With a bad offensive line, Chuba Hubbard is getting it done. So congratulations on Chuba for getting a brand new 4-year contract, Cole. So let's go down the list. Percentage chance that you believe this individual will be back on the team next year. Let's start with a former Gamecock, Jadeveon Clowney. He's 31 years old, playing outside linebackers. They could cut bait on him after this year.
Yeah.
His contract goes up significantly next year, and he's going to be 5% of the cap next year compared to just 2.5% of the cap. This year, his bonuses go way up next year.
I think it's 50-50.
50-50.
Yeah, I mean, look, like the reality is production worth the price, and vice versa? Is price worth the production? And I guess the flip side of it is, could you get him for cheap? Could you get him for reasonable, rather?
Could you get him to restructure his deal to pay him roughly what you're paying him this year?
Yeah.
Right?
No, I wouldn't be surprised if he's gone.
I'm gonna say that there's more like a 75% chance that he's back next year for this reason, Cole, that they're going to be stockpiling a lot of rookies for the next couple of seasons. So they're going to have the money. And if they feel like Jadeveon Clowney is productive enough, they're willing to pay him 5% of the cap as opposed to 2.5% of the cap this year. So they're essentially doubling his cap hit, doubling his salary in a way. So, they're going to bonus him. They're going to, probably heavily incentivize late in his contract. So I think they're going to pay him. They're going to keep him around. And then, I think next year is going to be his last year with the Carolina Panthers. JD says, Clowney gone. He's ring chasing. I don't know why he chose the Panthers unless they were the only ones, or if he's good enough veteran leadership. That's a good point. Yeah. If he's good veteran leadership for that defense, and he really wants to be there in Carolina, really believes in what Edro Avero's doing there, maybe you can get him to stick around a little bit longer.
It's going to be tough.
Cole, next up, let's go to the quarterback room. Andy Dalton and Bryce Young.
I like it. I think they're, I thought about this one for a minute, and obviously I might be wrong here, but I think they're both back. Okay. So I'm going to go, for each one, I'll go 80-20. I really do. Yeah. Okay. I think they've got to be. What other options is there? So I'll go 80-20 that they're both back. I don't see the Panthers making a big enough move early in the draft. I don't think there's anybody they want bad enough at quarterback to go out and tank for. So I'll go 80-20. I think they're both back.
I'm going to go 60% chance Andy Dalton comes back only because he struggled so much down the stretch. Now, if he shows them something down the last couple of weeks of the season, if they even put him back in the game, right? Yeah. Then I think Andy Dalton is almost assuredly going to stay, even if they keep him around as just a shorthanded veteran for another year. So I'm going to give Andy Dalton a 60% chance. Bryce Young, I mean, we had the quote yesterday from Dave Canales where he said we got a plan for everybody on this team. It wasn't Dave Canales. It was I forget who it was, but he was quoting Dave Canales. So we got the secondhand quote from Dave Canales saying that Dave's got a plan for everybody on this team. If they're on this roster, he's got a plan for them on this roster. I don't believe that when it comes to Bryce Young.
Okay.
I think Dave Canales, look, he's done it in two different places. Did it in Seattle. He did it in Tampa Bay. He knows what kind of quarterback can be successful in the NFL. Now he's Mr. Sunshine Pumper, Mr. Optimistic. He's not going to ever say publicly Bryce Young doesn't factor into our plans next year. I think Bryce Young's gone.
Okay.
I think Bryce Young's gone. I'm going to give him a 25% chance of being on this roster in 2025. Because why would you keep a guy around if you know beyond or you don't believe that he gives you a chance to win games?
Yeah.
I understand they beat the Saints last week, but they beat a Saints that were coming off 6 straight losses, that were down 4 of their best defensive players, and they still just barely beat the Saints.
Yeah.
Cole, this one's kind of a funny one. Rookie wide receiver Jalen Coker.
100% he's back.
100%.
Yep, he's back. He's going to be their best. He might be their best option.
And he's only making $175,000 this year.
I do. I think he's back.
I believe. I'm with you. I believe he's going to come back. He's showing enough that that there's no way they're going to move on because he's cheap, right? Even if they double his salary to 1.25, really, they're not gonna move on from him. Here's a really interesting one, Cole. Ike Ekwonu. He's on a 4-year deal. 2026 will be his 5th year option.
Mm-hmm.
He's only playing 88% of snaps this year, which is down a little bit from what he played last year. I think people aren't happy with him.
I think it's like 55-45 here. I think it's close to 50-50 for him. I mean, you're right. They don't have a lot of good options anywhere, but no, I think so. I think it's 55-45.
And lastly, Cole, we'll stop with this one. J.C. Horn, who is just so injury prone. It's really tough to get a gauge on him. He's really trending number-wise right where he was in 2022, where he only played 13 games, but his stats are kind of on pace. He hasn't gotten better.
This one's scary, right?
Yeah.
I'm going 50-50. I think flip a coin. They kind of need him for depth.
This is a bleeper get off the pot year.
Yeah.
And we've said that for how many times about J.C. Horn? He ain't coming back. 10%. 10% chance J.C. Horn's coming back.
All right. What is coming back is the high school coaches spotlight. We do it every Thursday. This week's Reggie Shaw, first time the head football coach of the Byrnes Rebels, next. Every Thursday, we do the high school football coaches spotlight right here on the Fan Upstate. Today, we're talking a little high school football, a little Byrnes football with Reggie Shaw, the head football coach of the Byrnes Rebels. Coach, let's start with what Friday was your 60th win as the head football coach of the Byrnes Rebels. Congratulations on that, obviously, but how's it feel to get 60 and, more importantly, get your 4th region win of the season?
Man, it's wonderful. I'm glad I got it before I turned 60. Just a blessing. I had no idea until you guys told me after the game. I'm just trying to keep my head down, stay focused, and finish well with these guys. But it's a blessing, man. It's been a journey. It's been a ministry at times, and but it's I think it's been a calling, and it's been a lot of ups and downs. But just a opportunity to impact young people and hopefully build men in the process has been a great journey.
Reggie Shaw, head football coach of the Byrnes Rebels, joining us here on Wire to Wire with Dees and Nicole Bryson. Coach, you had a slow start, obviously, and then things really picked up. Wade Hampton win, Dorman win, Eastside, Boiling Springs. You got big wins there. What changed in the middle of between week number 3 and week number 4?
Yeah, I think we grew up. We had 4 returning starters that played any kind of varsity football, and so we knew it was going to be a work in progress, and just the process works if you trust it and if you just keep believing. And that's the biggest thing, is these kids never stop believing in each other and in what we were doing and their coaches. And so it's a beautiful thing to see a team kind of turn things around and do things that other people didn't think were possible.
What went into the DNA of the team, Coach, after the big loss to Spartanburg, coming back the very next week and following it up with a really big win on the road at Boiling Springs last Friday night? Because, a lot of teams after that loss to Spartanburg would lose themselves a little bit and get down, but your team obviously didn't. What went into that?
Yeah, I think it's the consistency, Cole. I think, we didn't change anything we did and how we approached it. We were always going to be real with them. Sundays are sometimes never fun. We come in and break down the film with the guys. They watch the film to grade themselves, and we grade them, and we compare, and just you got to be honest and look at it and be truthful. But they also saw some things that we did to hurt ourselves in the process, and we had a bunch of kids out that game, and so we got some guys back. Tracy Guerra coming back just created almost like a nitrous oxide boost to the team, and it was great to see.
Coach, how much has playing your entire season on the road really affected this team? I know you don't ever want to use that as an excuse, but just talk about just kind of the physical toll it takes having to go on the road every week.
It's a grind. But I approached it with the deal that we're going to be the most battle-tested, prepared team going into the playoffs. And the guys kind of embrace that. Just hats off to our seniors. Imagine going into your senior year, getting the news that you're not going to get any home games, and choosing to stay in an age where the transfer portal is open in high school. So just hats off to the loyalty they show to their team and their school and to each other. That's part of it. It's a great brotherhood amongst these guys. They love each other.
Coach, how do you handle what is a bye week tomorrow? It's the added week the high school league gave because of the hurricane. Some teams playing, some have them off. Some even have had their season come to an end already. But you guys at Byrnes are preparing for what will be the first round of the playoffs next Friday. How are you handling this bye week with it being between the regular season end and the postseason?
Yeah, I think you got to approach it with a balance. We've kind of created a model that we think works pretty well for a bye week. We give them Monday off, and we come in and go Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we get after it. But it's controlled. We work on things that we got to get better at. So it's a big focus on fundamentals and corrections, fixing things that have crept up on us, or things that we need to fix that are glaring. But also, staying in shape. I mean, we've conditioned this week, but we've taken some mental work on the board and in the film room. But you can't take your foot off the brake or off the gas at this time. You can't pump the brake. You got to keep your foot on the gas and keep them moving forward.
Coach Reggie Shaw, Byrnes Rebels football. Coach, is there a guy or two on your roster that, started the season as a depth guy, 2 or 3 on the chart, who's really surprised you and emerged as just an integral part of what it is you're doing now?
Yeah, there's about 20 of them.
How much time we got?
Yeah. I mean, your offensive line had the most depth issues coming in, and then one of our best offensive linemen got hurt in preseason. So getting Kylan Williams back has been good, but you got to start up front. Those guys have gotten better and better, but the defensive line has probably been the most consistent. Jaden Ferguson just got his second offer, and he's just playing lights out football. And we're undersized up front on both sides of the ball, but we're just continuing to fight. Josh Kierfo, Justice Hopkins, Jackson Delaney has really come on strong. Sherrod Wilkins was our top D tackle coming back. He gets hurt in the preseason, the season-ending knee injury, and then those guys have stepped up. But a lot of linebackers too. Torian Mills is just having a lights out year. Coming into his senior year, he's been a leader for us on defense. He and Shane Dixon. Offensively, people like Jacoby Fuller. Trey Segura goes down. Jacoby jumps into that role as a starting tailback, and he did some good things for us. Just I could go on and on. There's just so many guys who've contributed in different ways, whether it's practice or games, and kicking situation. John Cummings, comes out as a senior and is doing a great job for us, punting and kicking.
Coach, before I ask my final question, actually this is my final question, and most important, we're talking about it later in the show as a little teaser here for our Tolos out there, our audience, and I'm also going to ask Clay Hendricks, who we interview every Thursday at 6 o'clock, what is the appropriate time now that we've entered the month of November? What is the rule at your house on when you can start decorating for Christmas?
It's usually Thanksgiving, but if it was up to my kids, it would probably be October. But, I think Thanksgiving is the appropriate time, maybe a little bit before. What do you guys think?
I'm ready now.
Day after Thanksgiving. You don't touch. Yeah. Thanksgiving needs to be a more sacred holiday, and we've futzed with that, and we've let the big retailers tell us that it's Christmas time already.
That's no doubt, man. Hey, some people say it's Christmas every day, right?
That's right.
That's it. That's it. That is Reggie Shaw, Byrnes Rebels head football coach. We appreciate your time as always.
Appreciate the opportunity, guys. Thanks for all you do.
Thank you. Yeah, man, just a tale of a difficult season, and I know that next year, number one, that stadium on campus is going to be absolutely fantastic. Can you give us a sense, Cole? I don't know. I know you don't have to drive. You don't have to go by there very often, as you have in years past, but can you give us any sense of where they are as far as construction at the moment?
I still go on Thursdays to interview Coach Shaw for the pregame. So I did see it last Thursday, and it's a lot of
big hole in the ground,
a lot of dirt. However, you can see like where both the home stands and the away stands will be. It kind of looks more like a hole. Obviously not a lot of structure yet, but man, if you've seen the drawings, it's gonna be nice. It's Byrnes fans should be excited. It's going to be really, really
I'm
nice.
looking that up right now because I've seen them, but it's been a little while since I've seen them. And man, I'm excited. I'm excited for those Byrnes fans, and it's going to feel real good for Coach Shaw and this team to be able to get back on campus next year. But that was really a great way to look at it, saying that we're going to be the most battle-tested team going into the playoffs. So there's a lot of teams who are not as battle-tested, and it's going to be big for them.
It really is. And by the way, quick programming note, Tolos. I've said it once, and I want to say it again because sometimes I forget about it. 5 o'clock, 1 hour from now, Tolo Takeover. Get ready. Go ahead and think about what you're going to take over these airwaves with. It's your chance coming up in 1 hour.
Cole, we spend a lot of time breaking down the college football playoff, who's in, who's out. Let's look at the top 25. Now that we know who the CFP committee put in their initial rankings, who has the ability to push themselves out of contention this week? Who has the ability to play their way back into college football playoff contention? And who's completely hopeless? Who can't get in no matter what they do? That's coming up next on the Fan Upstate. Cole, we got Sunbelt action on TV tonight.
2 good games, by the way. Not just 1, but 2.
Right here in the state of South Carolina, due east of us. App State on the road at Coastal Carolina.
You nervous?
I am because I genuinely don't know what team App State has this year.
It's not good.
No.
Well, it's 2 points. Last time,
2.5 point spread. Okay. Both of these are 4-4 teams. I think Tim Beck is a much better coach than Sean Clark is. He was also on TV crushing beers with Dan Mullen and Matt Berry earlier today. Sean Clark would never do that. He would crack open a crisp bottle of water, but he's not going to be crushing beers on TV. He's too buttoned up for that kind of stuff.
Well, maybe he needs to start.
There's one more game on tonight, and I'm trying to find. It's Florida Atlantic, East Carolina. So how about that? Both of the games happening right here in the Carolinas. Florida Atlantic, ECU. Florida Atlantic is 2-6. East Carolina 4-4.
That'll be fun, man.
Both of those games kick off at 8:00.
Yeah, I always like a little Coastal App State. That's a fun game, and we've had some good ones over the years, especially Grayson McCall. Right?
God, he was good.
So good.
He was scary good. He was scary good. So hey, maybe we'll have a decent football game tonight. Neither one of those games, though, Cole, going to affect the CFP at all. If you missed it on Tuesday, they released the very first CFP rankings. Oregon 1, Ohio State 2, Georgia 3, Miami 4, Texas 5, Penn State 6, Tennessee 7, Indiana 8. How about that? First year with Kurt Signetti. Indiana 9-0, 8th in the country. Number 9, BYU. Number 10, Notre Dame. 11, Alabama. 12, Boise State. 13, SMU. 14, Texas A&M. 15, LSU. Cole, the question is, looking at it from a week-by-week basis, because where you are this week affects where you could end up next week, obviously. Who do you think, Cole, and I want to look down the contenders who are still in this, the top 25, who's safe no matter what they do this week and no matter what happens in their games, who's still safely in the top 12, in the top 11, really, in the conversation for an at-large, because anything could still happen with conference championship games.
Yeah.
So who's safe no matter what happens in their games? Who's on the college football playoff bubble with a loss? Who's out if they lose? And who can play their way in?
Yeah. What's interesting about the conversation, though, is like every day that passes, your very first question of who's safe, it gets tougher and tougher because every single day that passes, every single week that passes, there's the room for error, the margin of error just gets more and more slim, Diesel. So, yeah, there are some teams right now who are safe no matter what happens. But, boy, like, that's a bold statement. No matter what happens, I think there's only just one or two.
Okay,
one or two.
Okay, well, we'll break that down. JD on the stream says they treat the rankings like power ratings. They don't punish people by 3 or more spots. Well, maybe. Just depends on what happens this weekend, Cole. And, like, again, I'm not asking how far they're going to move up and down. I'm just asking where do we think they'll still be in the conversation? So let's start very easy at the tippy top, Cole. Who is safe no matter what happens to them this weekend? I think there's only 3 teams.
Woo.
I think there's 3 teams that if they took a loss, and that's really what we're talking about here, if these teams took a loss, are they still safely inside the top 11 conversation?
And that's what I was going to say.
Number 12 very well could be a G5 champion coming in at the number 12 spot.
And when you say safe, inside top 12.
Inside the top 12.
Playoff. Yeah, you say 3?
I got 3.
Go one at a time, and I'll agree or disagree with you because I'm talking myself out of your third one right now.
I've got Oregon.
Yes.
Number 1. They play a 4-4 Maryland. So they're not playing a garbage tier football team. They're playing an okay Maryland.
Average football team.
Let's pretend undefeated Oregon gets beat by 21 against Maryland.
21? Oh God!
It's a comfortable win for Maryland.
Okay.
And like I said, it has to be a no matter what, right? That has to be the conversation. No matter what happens to them. I mean, if you go out there and you get blown out by 50, that's one thing. But it's Maryland at Oregon. Maryland at Oregon.
No, I don't
9-0.
I don't push back. Oregon's safe, but the reality is like the more you Yes, they're safe. Let me just say that. They're safe regardless of
Not
what happens.
Oregon's still in the top 12.
But what I was getting at, what I was trying to say, Diesel, is for a lot of these teams, you may be safe now. But very important to remember, just if you were to lose this weekend, just because you're safe now doesn't mean you'll be safe 3 weeks from now or 4 weeks from now.
Agreed.
Because of that loss. So that's where, like, my hesitation, a little bit of nervousness kicks in. Yeah, I agree with you. Oregon's a no-doubter.
Because then we'd have to pick every game for each team
That's
the
right.
rest of the season, and then we'd be here for 5 hours.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
Not that I wouldn't love doing that.
I like Oregon to be safe. It wouldn't look good, but they'd be safe.
I've got Georgia also as safe. They're number 3. They're playing Ole Miss on the road, 7-1 team at a 7-2 team. If you're number 3 and you lose to Ole Miss, who's in the top 16, you're not falling outside of the top 12. Not happening.
Georgia's interesting. They would have 2 losses, Diesel, if they lost to Ole Miss.
A 2-loss team, right?
And we know that when it's all said and done, there's going to be a conversation to be had about 2-loss SEC teams and maybe 1 or 2 3-loss SEC teams.
But it's also a 2-loss Georgia, and their losses would both be against ranked teams. So it's not like, for example, talking about Oregon there going down to Maryland, you're going down to a mediocre football team, an average team. This would be Georgia losing 2 big games.
For the time being, they'd be safe. I'll answer by saying that. For the time being, they'd be safe, right? We obviously can't predict, like you said, what happens a month from now.
We're really predicting where they're going to be in the conversation next
Tuesday. Yeah, for right now, they're good. But again, it goes back to my point. You lose now, even if you're Oregon and Georgia, there's still some doubt that creeps up, and it's like, oh crap,
Georgia
what have I done to myself?
The loudest voice ever for playoff expansion. If they were a 2-loss team and they lost to Alabama and Ole Miss, and they didn't get into a 12-team playoff, are you kidding me? Kirby Smart would be in that SEC.
You know how
He'd
great
hop in
that'd
his
be,
truck
though?
and drive over to the SEC offices in a heartbeat, saying, "You got to get this thing expanded." But we cannot miss.
Man. It'd be so funny. We need that to happen. It's not going to, but
so Cole, you only had 2 teams being safe no matter what happens. I think Miami's safe because Miami's 9-0, and they're playing a good Georgia Tech football team.
this week they're safe. No, I'll agree with you.
Inside the top 12.
Inside the top 12, they're safe. Yeah, look, if we're talking about strictly Tuesday, they're safe inside the top 12. But obviously the conversation's a lot different. We're talking about, will they find themselves when it's all said and done?
I think somebody's going to jump up and bite them. I don't know who it's going to be, but Miami.
Well, they've already dodged 2 bullets.
Yeah, exactly.
And
are they going to be able to do that for an entire season when they're giving up 30, 40 points a game to bad football teams?
So I'll tell you what I think on that. I think they've already dodged their bullets. I think they had, especially the game, the Hurricane game. I call it Hurricane game.
They're not really buttoning things down, though. They're still
but the
playing
schedule
with fire.
sucks. The schedule's so bad.
But the schedule sucked, and the teams they were playing sucked.
Wasn't it Virginia Tech that gave them the overtime, the night we got hit with a hurricane?
That should have been a loss
for
them.
But they dodged the bullet, and that's my point.
And they got Georgia Tech, Wake, and Syracuse left to go.
They're not going to lose it.
Wake is okay. Syracuse is 6-2. I mean, they don't have the easiest schedule down the stretch. Georgia Tech's plus 500. Wake Forest is 4-4, so they're a 500 team. But Wake Forest is, like I said, like we've been saying yesterday, it's been coming on. They won 2 games in a row. Okay, so those are my 3 who are safe no matter what happens. They're going to be safely inside the top 12. I like that.
I don't push
next
back.
week. We don't need to go this deep onto every single one of them, Cole, but I'll list off the teams that I think who are on the bubble.
Okay.
On the bubble with a loss this weekend. Ohio State hosting a 1-7 Purdue. Texas hosting a 4-4 Florida. Penn State hosting a 5-4 Washington. Tennessee hosting a bad Mississippi State. Indiana hosting a middle-of-the-pack Michigan. And BYU at Utah, who's a 4-4 team. I think all 6 of those teams, Cole.
It's a lot of teams.
If they lose this weekend, if they all lose this weekend, nothing happens because, well, everybody's still sitting in the same place with a loss. But I think any one of these teams loses, they could fall out of the top 12.
If Ohio State, though, hosts 2.
But it's Purdue.
I know, but are you going to drop them from 2 to 12?
Are you telling me that an Ohio State team that lost to a 1-win Purdue deserves to be in the top 12?
No.
See,
but is the committee going to think that?
Especially because they've already got a loss, right? If they were undefeated, they would be in the first category.
So where would they fall? Where would Ohio State fall if they?
God, that's
13,
a good question.
Right? It had to be 13.
Ohio State loses on a last-second field goal to Purdue, or they lose. They lose by a touchdown. And hey, Purdue has done that a couple times, right, over the years.
It wouldn't surprise me to see them like at 12.
Man. I mean, what if Ohio State just plays like hot garbage against Purdue and loses by a field goal? I think Ohio State, they fall. They at best they stay at 10. Yeah. There's no way they keep an Ohio State that lost to Purdue in the top 10.
I think it'd be somewhere between 11 and 12. I do. I don't think they'd fall all the way towards 20. But, boy, that'd be a bad loss.
Tennessee's in the same conversation, right?
Tennessee's exact same conversation.
They're playing Mississippi State this week. Again, don't think it's going to happen. So, Cole, who is out of the top 12 if they lose this weekend? I got Notre Dame out if they lost to Florida State. Alabama is out if they lose to LSU. We talked to Chris Phillips about that earlier this week or yesterday, and he agreed with that. And I say Boise State is out. They're sitting at 12. They lose to Nevada. They're out. Now, some of those teams, Boise State especially, still has a way to climb back in this thing with a conference championship game. So their season's not over. But those teams are out of the 12 if they lose.
So what's interesting with Bama is they're 100% toast, 100% out if they lose. And LSU's kind of in the same boat, right? Like, LSU, in my eyes, LSU-Bama this weekend's a playoff game. It is a playoff game for both of those teams, Diesel. So I don't push back on any of those. Notre Dame, but here's what's fascinating with them. They've already lost NIU. Mm-hmm. Was it NIU?
They lost NIU.
NIU 1-8 Florida State. Let's be honest, Florida State doesn't have the brand power this year in 2024 for that to be, okay, it's still a Florida State. No, it's gone.
Where does Notre Dame fall, and how fast are they going to run Marcus Freeman out of town?
Here we go. Oh, my God.
You can't lose to NIU and a one-win Florida State the same season.
Wouldn't they? Wouldn't they have to can them? I mean, what? How do you bring a guy back that loses to NIU?
That's a consistent lack of focus.
Oh, my God.
And they lost to Marshall 2 years ago.
So they're 16, 17, 18, I'd say they're 17, 18, or 19 if they lose to Florida State.
Barely staying in the top 20.
Well, they shouldn't be. I mean, they shouldn't be if you lose to this year's Florida State team, 1-8. Are you kidding me? And then how disappointing is it for Alabama and LSU? I mean, 3 weeks ago, Diesel, I was sitting here saying LSU's a dark horse to get into the playoff. They lose to A&M, right? I said a dark horse to get to the Final Four.
I think too many people are bagging on LSU too much for that loss to A&M. Now,
yeah, obviously that was their second, though.
It's painted in a different way now that you look at their loss to South Carolina. But I think LSU is one of my teams who can play their way back in to the 12 if they win this weekend. Playing Alabama, I mean, it would be tight, right? Are they going to jump from 15 to 12 by beating the number 11 team in the country?
So my opinion is the loser of this game is not making the playoff. They're done. They're toast. I don't think the loser of this game has enough. Like, what do you can't go and say to the committee and say, oh, but we're LSU, but we're Alabama. Yeah, but you have 3 losses. Right. You didn't make the conference championship game. This is not like, hey, a brand power discussion where what your helmet sticker does or is gets you into the playoff anymore.
Ole Miss, Cole, I think can absolutely play their way in if they beat number 3 Georgia at home this weekend. Now that I feel better about that one than I feel about LSU jumping into the number 12 spot by beating
because of the win.
Yeah, because of the win. Ole Miss, they've come on the last couple weeks. They put up a ton of points.
It's like I said to Chris yesterday.
And it's a top 5 team.
But isn't it almost too little too late? I mean, isn't it? How many times are we going to do this with we talked about it coming into the season with Ole Miss.
You're applying, historical logic.
I am. And we talked about it coming into the season. This is the year Lane Kiffin's not going to drop 2 or 3 he shouldn't. Yeah. And what's he do? He drops 2 or 3 he shouldn't. He's lost to
Kentucky and LSU.
Kentucky. LSU.
Well,
okay.
Here's the problem for Lane Kiffin is after Georgia, they've only got Florida and Mississippi State left. They don't have another shot after this. So they need to absolutely American history X Georgia. I mean, they got to make them bite down on the curb, and they got to beat them by 28.
And I don't think they do.
I don't think they do.
I don't think they do.
Because then after that, you got a middling Florida, who, by the way, big announcement today, they're bringing Billy Napier back, and Mississippi State. Like, the committee's not going to give a rip if you beat Mississippi State by 30.
So let's touch on that for just 2 seconds.
Yep. That's a big,
the welfare
big
check segment we do every Tuesday.
Shot all to hell.
Wow. I mean, what are you telling the future of Florida by bringing him back? I'm not saying it's the wrong decision. He has played Diesel. If you want to look at what he's done this year, he doesn't deserve to be fired based on this season. This season, in my mind, if you're looking at just a sample size of 2024 and 2024 only, that's not fireable. However, they're not looking at just 2024, right? They're looking at previous years. Even though his tenure at Florida hasn't been long, they're looking at the entire picture of what Billy Napier has or has not been at Florida. It surprises me. I thought they ripped the Band-Aid off, but
they got to do something to keep DJ Lagway.
Yeah.
Right? There's not enough money to keep DJ Lagway in Gainesville if they, number one, are going 500
But is DJ
on the
Lagway
year.
Is he the only recruit you can ever get? Is he the only good player you can ever get?
But if you are a program that's constantly churning your head coach.
Yeah, I get that. I guess my only thing is Diesel, another good coach, an elite coach, he'd bring in 2 or 3 DJ Lagways. Hopefully. You can't bank on that. But, like, at some point, I don't know. I think, again, this year he's done enough. He played Georgia really well. I was very impressed. They won a few in a row. Didn't start off the year fantastic, as we all know. But, I was surprised.
One big problem they've got, and I don't know what they're doing in the portal class, Cole, but they are not even inside the top 50 when it comes to 2025. Actually, they're 51st. They're 51st with 1 5-star and 5 4-stars in the 2025 high school recruiting class.
So they're not using the portal?
I don't know what they're doing in the portal. I haven't looked up their portal.
I'm sorry. I thought you said portal.
This is their high school recruiting.
High school. Gotcha.
The transfer portal for the 2020, obviously, we haven't gotten there yet, so we don't know. Yeah. Nobody's got commits for the 2025 portal class.
Yeah.
But if you look at the 2024 portal class, Florida had the number 6 class in the portal. So Napier's crushing it in the transfer portal. He's doing okay. He's getting good stars in the high school class.
Yeah.
And Florida's AD said that he wants to take a slower, more measured approach, and he believes in Billy Napier's ability to take that slow, measured approach. So we know this is a twitchy fan base.
It is. So what you're telling me is if you combine Billy Napier and Dabo Swinney, you'd have a perfect head coach. You'd have someone who recruits well. You'd also have someone who uses the portal pretty well. You combine the two of them, you've got the best coach in the modern era of college football ever.
You're saying every Dabo needs a Billy Napier in his back pocket?
It wouldn't hurt. Wouldn't hurt.
And to get through this quickly, these teams can't play their way back in. Not happening. Iowa State, Pitt, Washington State, Clemson, Missouri, Army. You're not getting back in.
No, you're adios,
done.
right? Now, where was Indiana on yours, just so you know?
Indiana.
Or just so I know, rather.
Indiana is
They're 9 right now?
They're number 8. They're 9-0. They're on the bubble if they lose, because I believe this committee is looking for any reason
not
to kick somebody who they believe doesn't belong here out of the top 12.
No,
and they're number 8. So they lose to Michigan. They're going to drop.
They're on the bubble. I mean, they really are. I mean,
they're on the double bubble.
They are. They really are, because they don't have a lot of room for error. And how do they look at their strength of schedule? How do they view that? They've got a good coach. There's nobody to doubt. They're a good team. They're a good team. They should be there. They should be in the top 12 when it's all said and done. But we'll see. Diesel, college basketball season is here. It's time for us to get in to a little college hoops. 2024-2025 seasons here. Who am I excited to watch? Carolina, Clemson, a little taste, a little preview of that next. The Upset Picks Challenge, it is OPEN. It's time for you to get your upset pick in.
Yeah.
Before the end of the show, don't forget, don't be a procrastinator. Go ahead and get that bad boy in. You need to find an underdog who you like to win the game outright. Text it in 71307, your name, your game, and the spread. That's how you can enter. It's not too late. Diesel, can you believe how college basketball is already here?
I love it.
How – It's just like you snap your fingers, man, and you're in the midst of college football. You got your head down. NFL's happening, and then all of a sudden, bam, college basketball is here as well.
We're in that, like, perfect sweet spot. Like,
yes.
If you've got college football, circle, college basketball, circle. We're in that little Venn diagram space.
There's a lot going on.
And it's great.
A lot going on right now. So a lot to get to. I'm very interested in several things this season, not just from a team aspect, but also from a player aspect. Diesel, we're going to talk about South Carolina and Clemson as well because, you know, both programs have a chance to be good, and that's good for us, right? It gives us something good to talk about. We don't want to talk about a terrible basketball program led by Brad Brownell again or a bad Lamont Paris-led team. We want to talk about winners. But before we get to that, man, I don't know – and you, Tolos, you can get your thoughts in on the college basketball season as well, 71307, keyword fan. I don't know that there's a more interesting storyline in all of basketball, college or men's or women's, Diesel, than there is with Cooper Flagg. I just think that what you'll see this year, you know how like when Zion took over the 1 year he was at Duke, it was all eyes on Zion, right? And a lot of that had to do with the upstate, him being from Spartanburg and playing at Spartanburg Day School. Obviously, we had a vested interest, but Cooper Flagg's a phenom that we might not have seen at the college level in a long time. We know it'll be a one-and-done experiment for Cooper, but when you talk about men's and women's game combined, Diesel, there's nothing more that I'm excited about watching, even with Carolina and Clemson, than I am when you talk about the possibility that this could be a special, special season for the Duke Blue Devils because of Cooper Flagg.
Well, I know a lot of Clemson football fans will be excited about that, knowing that Duke's going to be good in basketball this year.
Ooh.
I mean, it's going to be fun to watch Cooper Flagg and see how he can take over the college basketball world. And the ACC needs it. God, do they need another big-time star in the ACC to get people's eyeballs watching it, right? I mean, people are always going to watch the Duke North Carolina game. But, I mean, think about it. Why else would you watch Duke Syracuse? Why else would you watch Duke Boston College or Duke Virginia Tech? You want to see if this Cooper Flagg guy is for real.
He's going to be for real. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Also, Juju Watkins at USC, she's really, really good. We all know how good of a player she is. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch her. And Paige Buchers at UConn. UConn's going to be another tough team, men's and women's. Both programs are going to be competing. Mark Sears at Alabama, Diesel. He's also one that I wrote down as one of the most anticipated players to watch in 2024. Alabama was really good last year. I mean, they were really good. You lose Nick Pringle to South Carolina, and we know what Nate Oates has done there. He's built a phenomenal basketball program. You talk about the SEC and how dominant they've been. We talked about the college basketball AP Top 25 a few weeks ago, and there were a lot of SEC teams in that AP 25. So it's a different league. I mean, Bama's 2. When you go down the list, you have Auburn at 11, Tennessee at 12, A&M at 13, Arkansas at 16, Texas 19, Florida 21, Kentucky 23, Ole Miss 24. There are a lot of SEC teams in the top 25, but those players specifically, Diesel, are going to be the players I'm going to watch and that I really look forward to watching. However, the question is, from a team aspect, can anybody top what Kansas has the ability to do in 2024, 2025? They right now sit atop the AP poll. They host, by the way, North Carolina tomorrow, which get the popcorn ready. They went 23-11 the season ago, the Jayhawks did. And, they lost Kevin McCullough Jr., who averaged just over 18 points per game. They do have senior Hunter Dickinson back, who returns. He's going to have to be a big piece. He averaged 17 points a season ago, Diesel. But it's always fun at the beginning of the college basketball season to see these programs that are even blue bloods that are supposed to be the elite of the elites and see how that trend continues, because it's college basketball. You might have a Cinderella or two pop up.
Yeah, to your point about Paige Buchers, I hope the NCAA has enough money, or the women's game has enough money to make her a star, because they need another star. They need to follow up what they had last year with Paige Buchers, right? They need to follow up a star with a star. Do whatever you can to market your stars while you can. So that's going to be massive for them. I mean, UConn women's basketball is going to be a really good team. So, if you can market those stars, that would be really huge for them, Cole. And I'm looking at, granted, I know most of these teams have played one game. I don't think not too many teams have played even two games. So far.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm looking at top 50 of KenPom, and I see a grand total, Cole, of 3 ACC teams.
Yeah.
Even in the top 50, no, excuse me, 4. So Miami's at 49. I said that wrong again. 5. Miami's at 49, Pitt's at 31, Clemson 24, North Carolina 17, and Duke number 4. So the ACC has a couple of teams who are sitting in the top 50 that could make a run up into the top 25, given what happens over the first couple of games of their seasons, Cole. But the ACC is in trouble. The ACC is in big trouble in basketball this year, falling out of the ranks of the relevant from top to bottom conferences and being just another run-of-the-mill conference with 2 good teams.
I'll say this. They're in trouble right now. Let's see. Let's give it 3 months and see where the ACC teams are. I'm just not counting all of them out yet, because there's still a lot of really good head coaches in the ACC. There's still talent there. Who knows what Clemson will be, right?
We won't know for a month really who Clemson is, because they play a bunch of nobodies until they play
that's college basketball.
Yeah, until they play Kentucky on December 3rd. Yeah. And then you got Miami, Memphis, the South Carolina game. By that point, you're finally going to get a sense of who Clemson is. And Cole, there's a chance by the time you get there, that you're a 6-0 team, 7-0 team. See, they're 2-0 so far. They play St. Francis, Eastern Kentucky, Boise State, Radford, San Francisco, Penn State, or Fordham in a tournament, Florida A&M, then Kentucky.
Yeah.
So,
and it's a Clemson team that they've got some potential. They lost PJ Hall. They lost Joe Girard, RJ Godfrey, how big he was down the stretch, right? Jack Clark's gone. They do return the chef. We know how good he can be. Chase Hunter. It's an integral part of this team. I mean, until Chase Hunter announced he was coming back, we didn't really know how this Clemson team would be. Chauncey Wiggins, Dylan Hunter. Obviously, they got some new pieces, and Del Jones, Victor Lakin, who was a transfer from Cincinnati, Miles Foster from Illinois State Diesel, Christian Reeves, the transfer from Duke, Jackson Roberts, Dallas Thomas. They've got some pieces. I just think that when you talk about this Clemson team in 2024, there's a lot of unknown past the chef, past Chase Hunter. Once you get past those 2 guys, you don't have the RJ Godfreys anymore. Obviously, PJ Hall, we know how impactful he was a season ago. The bench is going to be important for Clemson. I'm not saying that this Clemson team can't replicate what they did last year, but this is feels like we've said this a million times. This is a very important year for Brownell.
No, it's not.
I think it is.
It's not, because they're going to extend him no matter what he does.
Well, you've got to show consistency. You've got to show that you can at least you can't – Diesel, what if he goes this year and doesn't make the tournament? I mean, that would – oh, my gosh.
It would hurt.
It hurt.
But they would say, well, wasn't it nice when we made the tournament in 2023? Wasn't that great?
I hope not.
Wasn't it great?
And then on the flip side, Diesel, hey, we have, again, I said a minute ago, the Gamecocks. They have a team that can compete. They went 26-8 a season ago. Welcome back, Lamont, for his 3rd season. We all know how good of a coach he's been, right, at South Carolina. Now, look, they lost some guys. They lost Michie Johnson. They lost B.J. Mack. They lost Talon Cooper from right here in Spartanburg, who went to Dorman. Josh Gray, Stephen Clark, those guys are gone. They do return Colin Murray-Boyles, who's a really good player, averaged 10 points per game a season ago. I'll look for him to continue to get better in that aspect. And they welcome newcomers with Jordan Butler, who transferred from Mizzou, right? Austin Hero, Lance Piper, Nick Pringle from Alabama, Cam Scott. Jamal Thomas. They've got a lot of guys who can be good additions. And add on top of that, Diesel, once again, Lamont Paris's team's being disrespected. They disrespected him a season ago, and he went 26-8. They're disrespecting him again this year, and they've got just as much talent, maybe more, in my opinion.
Yeah, this is a good year for Lamont Paris. I'm excited to see what he's going to be able to do, as he's had, now going into his third year and his ability to build a program at the SEC level. The NCAA or these preseason rankings, they're completely useless in basketball. And Cole, there are good teams that lose games that they shouldn't lose early on that don't get dropped very much because they still have the name behind them and they still have all the ratings behind them and the stars on their team behind them. So I think South Carolina is going to make a big push up that leaderboard very, very soon.
Texter says Cooper was like 5th in total NIL valuations when I looked that up earlier. He should be top 5, if not 1. I mean, he's expected to be the number 1 overall pick. It's that simple. He's expected to be that good. And I know there's a lot of good players in college basketball this season, but 6'9", I mean, there's not many Cooper flags out there. There's not.
And we all need to do a better job watching the stars in college basketball and being aware of what's going on with the biggest and best players everywhere, Cole, because how many times have we had the conversation that the regular season in NCAA basketball is falling by the wayside, is falling out of importance? Well, it's only falling out of importance because nobody knows who these stars are. I know they're moving around all over the place. I know the best guys are only in college basketball for 1 year, but it's our duty, all of us, to pay closer attention to that.
So, Diesel, before we run to a break, I'm going to give you my final 4 predictions for college basketball as the season, starting pretty much right now. A lot of teams have played, like you said, 1 or 2 games. I've got 3 that I believe will be there, and then I'll also have a dark horse, a wild card, if you will, because of just look, it's March Madness. Something crazy always has the potential of happening. So I'm going to give you 4 teams who I think will be in the Final 4. I'll try my best to write these down somewhere so I can save them and see how wrong I was when it's all said and done, Diesel, in March. I've got Kansas in the Final 4. They're going to be one of the best teams. They're preseason 1, right? Always going to be good under Bill Self. I have Duke. Duke has been in a drought when it comes to national championships. I like John Shire. I think Cooper Flag's going to be he's going to live up, in my opinion, to every single bit of potential that he has. UConn's my 3rd team. And then my dark horse, my wild card to get in the Final 4 is Rutgers. Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper. Those 2 names specifically, college basketball fans, write them down because in 2 months, you'll know who Ace Bailey is. You'll know who Dylan Harper is. That's going to be a really good team with Rutgers, and they're my wild card, if you will, to get into the college basketball Final 4. I'm excited, Diesel. I love this time of year. As you mentioned, so much going on. But I love waking up on a Saturday, man, and having a big-time college basketball matchup. And even Thursday night, are you kidding me? Kansas and North Carolina.
College basketball is perfect for the ADHD generation, Cole.
Yes.
Football games take a long time, and I love watching football games. Man, they can drag on for 3.5, 4 hours. College basketball is done like that, man. It's for the ADHD generation. When we come back, Cole, let's take a whip around the sports world, see what's happening out there in our daily wires. We're going to be talking about the upset picks standings a little bit later on in the show. Tolos, we want you to get yours in 71307. Send us your name, your game, and the spread, a game where you think the betting underdog will get the outright upset this weekend. Cole, but it's time for us to look around the sports world. We pulled out our binoculars, looking what's going on all over the place. We call this our Daily Wires. This is the buzz in the sports world. Dak Prescott is dealing with a partial avulsion of his right hamstring.
That sounds really
Quick,
good.
what does avulsion mean?
It's when the hamstring avulges from the leg.
Gotcha. Yeah. You
didn't know that? How do you not know that?
So what you're saying is the Cowboys are avulsing from wins this season.
Yes, they are. They already have.
What it means, though, is part of his tendon has pulled away from the bone,
Yeah,
which sounds
that's a simple way to put
awfully
it.
painful.
Yeah.
Dak has not yet been put on injured reserve. If he is put on IR, he would sit out for a minimum of 4 games, which would keep him out until December 9th against the Cincinnati Bengals. But sources, Cole, say Dak's probably going to need more time than 4 weeks to get over this.
He'll probably prolong it because they suck so bad. And you know what, Diesel?
He's going to pull Deshaun.
I'll tell you this. I haven't decided on what my complaint is going to be for the Tolo takeover. What's coming up in about 10 minutes on the show. But it might be Dak Prescott and Cowboys related. Just FYI.
You don't say. Last night in college football, Cole, Northern Illinois defeated Western Michigan 42-28. Man, those Huskies are for real. And Ohio defeated Kent State 41-0.
Yeah, that's a close game.
Yeah, one game was an okay game. The other one was not.
Hopefully better football tonight.
There's more football on tonight. App State is at Coastal Carolina. 2 4-4 teams squaring off. Florida Atlantic is at East Carolina. Both of those games kick off at 8.
I'm excited, man. Coastal App State signed me up. I mean, I hope it's a close game.
I hate watching Coastal games on TV, though, because that teal field is awful. Awful.
You're a hater.
No, I'm not. Well, I'm a little bit. But, no, it makes you think the color balance on your TV is off because it's close enough to being a right color for a field, but it's just far enough. Plus, that teal and gold, man, not a good combo. South Carolina Gamecock freshman Dylan Stewart is expected to receive a huge NIL bump to keep him in Columbia, upwards of 7 figures.
That's a lot.
Here's the problem, Cole. You're not supposed to be doing that mid-season.
Well, what are you talking about? Doing what? Doing what?
Following the rules?
What, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
What are you doing what? Well, we're not doing anything. It's the agent. We're not doing anything.
It's the collective.
Yeah.
The player's not doing anything.
Yeah, Dylan Stewart knows nothing about it.
Yeah, he just he's going to go look at his bank account one day and be like, oh, my God.
Yeah, there's a lot more money.
Look how much is in there. Florida quarterback DJ Lagway practiced in a limited capacity on Wednesday, despite a strained left hamstring. The Gators are 4-4, 2-3 in the SEC, and have officially listed Lagway as questionable to play at number 5 Texas on Saturday. That's one of my favorite things, Cole, about this year's new rules in the SEC is they got to give an injury report.
Yeah, they do, and their head coach should be questionable, but he's not. He's safe. Texter, by the way, says the best game on tonight is the NFL game. Let's be honest. Bengals-Ravens should be pretty good tonight. Should be. I agree, Texter.
Florida AD Scott Strickland announced that Billy Napier will return as head coach of the Gators in 2025. Got to stabilize that roster, stabilize the recruiting class, which is not a huge recruiting class, Cole, at this point. That's why they're 51st in the country. But I think a lot of players, were holding off until finding out what was going to happen with Billy Napier before they signed with the Gators.
It really blows my mind. I can't believe it. I guess they're okay. Another year of being mediocre.
We can take them off of the hot seat counter when we do that.
That's right.
The Hornets last night got a 1-point win over the Pistons, 108-107. They're now 3-5 on the season. Miles Bridges led the team with 27 points.
That's going to be another long year, I think, for the Hornets.
And you mentioned the Ravens. It's always a long year for the Hornets. It's the Hornets, right? Yeah. How is it possible that a team in a state that is basketball crazy has such a horrible NBA team?
Well, they had a horrible owner for years. I mean, they had a horrible owner. Michael Jordan did nothing. He didn't know, I guess he thought he was the best player ever, so he'd be a good owner. But they have been irrelevant. It's sad.
JD says, breaking news, Bronny to the G League. He'll be back in the NBA 2 days from now, and then in the G League a week from now. They said that was their plan, was to bounce him back and forth between the Lakers roster and the G League roster. Speaking of that Thursday night football game, Ravens, Bengals, both teams are going to be without big, valuable targets in the passing game.
Big time.
Ravens have ruled out Isaiah Likely, their tight end.
Coastal.
Dealing with a hamstring injury, while the Bengals have listed T. Higgins as doubtful. He didn't practice all week with a quad injury.
So your Coastal boy, Isaiah Likely, will not be – that's big. I mean, both of them. It kind of need both of those tonight, especially Cincinnati, man.
And how about this, Cole? Saquon Barkley revealed that he got immediately drug tested by the NFL after the reverse hurdle that went viral.
Why? Are you kidding me? Is that where we are, NFL?
Somebody makes a crazy play, drug test him.
I think that is so ridiculous that we do that. I hate it.
And lastly, Byrnes is off tomorrow. They're going to be back in action next week on the big signal 98.9 WORD.
Yeah, you'll hear me hammering that home a lot next week because Furman basketball Byrnes had conflict, so we'll be across the hall.
You're going to be across two states preaching Byrnes football. How about that?
All right, Diesel, speaking of preaching, it's time for the Tolos to preach, to moan, to gripe, whatever they want to do. Well, what do I mean? It's your segment, Tolos. It's your chance. We call it the Tolo Takeover. That's next. Not one, not two, not three, but 4 Tolos Diesel right now lined up. That leaves only 2 lines open for the time being. We had 3 new Tolos participate in the Tolo takeover last Thursday. That means we're going to have to update the intro, Diesel, but it is time. Speaking of the intro, if you don't know what to do, if you're a new Tolo, it's your chance. It's a 15 to 20-minute segment. Diesel and I, it's our segments most of the time, but now it's yours.
Okay. It took me 1 hour to get $14.65 worth of gas.
By God, if I don't get that extra cup of sauce, I'm coming back in. I ain't waiting in line.
Okay, I saw some stuff on the internet that really got me going. Y'all have got me conditioned that I got to say thank you every time I call you guys. And when it's the Tolo takeover, I kind of want to just call and be angry for a minute, but I got to start off being all cordial and say thank you for taking my call.
You don't have to.
This isn't a bad part. I mean, that's a bad part, but that's not why I'm mad as hell.
The Gamecocks are trying to win and Tuscaloosa on Saturday. Y'all need to be fired.
The grocery stores, at least the ones nearest me, are completely out of frozen pizzas, except for cauliflower pizzas.
Oh.
So if you are at the grocery store and nobody will buy your cauliflower pizzas, maybe you should stop carrying.
What really ticked me off when he speaks, not because he's the Clemson football coach, but when he speaks about an ACC game, he makes it seem like it's some big ordeal. Dabo, your schedule sucks.
And I am pissed off today, okay? It took me 1 hour to get $14.65 worth of gas.
All right, Tolos, 844-FAN phone, 844-326-3663. That's the way you can take over. And just to let you know, Harold, we did lose you. If you want to call back, you can. But JD Diesel, he's up first. Let's go to the phones where JD wants to take over. What's up, JD?
Well, gentlemen, as always, thank you for taking my call. Much appreciated. So I'm going to ask you guys 2 questions right now. So first of all, why is it that NASCAR has non-playoff drivers competing in the playoffs? Can you imagine the mental fortitude that it takes for this guy to be like, oh, well, I'm not in the playoffs, but if I win this race, I might advance. Or if I was in the playoffs, I would advance. How asinine is it that they keep these guys in the playoffs? They need to come up with a better format.
Well, they're driving to get paid. They win, they get paid. They finish high, they get paid.
And it's so hard not to compete. But after we saw the madness last week at Martinsville, we had Chevy drivers in coups with Chevy drivers. We had Toyota drivers trying to pull the Hell Melon with Christopher Bell. It's just so ridiculous.
So they've turned it into Survivor is what they've turned it into. You got to have alliances. You got to have people that help you get up to the front. Yeah, JD, I'm with you. What if a guy who's running in 42nd place wrecks out the guy who's in the lead? Like, I know that could have happened in the previous structures, but it sucks.
But what if there's only 4 drivers and all 4 of them wreck? The race is over.
I guess so. I don't want to see somebody who can't win the playoff out there, rubbing and bumping into somebody who's in the playoff. It doesn't make any sense.
No, it's really ridiculous. And that was one thing I wanted to say is the mental fortitude, though, that it takes for some of these guys to get into the race car. I know they're competitors. I know they want to get in and win. And so, I mean, just think about if you're Chase Elliott or this week or, Ryan Blaney, who is in the championship. But think about one of these drivers that aren't in the championship this week. They win the championship race, and they're like, well, dang, if I was in the playoffs this week, I would have won the championship. So it's just really ridiculous. And then, like you just said, Diesel, competitors. How about monkeys and lions as competitors? How in the world did 40 monkeys go escape from a biolab in Beaufort, South Carolina? This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. There's no monkeys in this state. If you see a monkey jumping across your roof or from a tree, somebody please call the animal control so we can wrangle up these 40 monkeys before there is a bad outbreak of another crazy disease here in the United States.
Thank you. We grew up watching the movie Outbreak, and we know what bad could happen.
I saw that on Twitter earlier. 40 monkeys have escaped. I mean, how does that happen? 40. They just opened the window, and all 40 of them said, all right, let's peace out this. You know what?
Are we sure it wasn't like animal activism terrorism that let them out?
Could have been. You could have been. I mean, what a story that is. All right, let's go to DB, who wants to take over the airwaves. Creed, Cowpens, we did lose you. If we can if you want to get back in, you can 844-FAN phone. We have a lot more space open now. So Creed and Harold, we lost both of you. If you want to get back in, 844-326-3663. Or if you're a Tolo who has not yet participated in the Tolo takeover, whatever you want to sound off about, you have some beef. JD doesn't like the NASCAR playoff format. What's DB have to say? What's up, man?
Hey, I'm going to do the opposite of JD. I'm glad to be here. The pleasure is all yours.
Thank you for blessing our airways.
Thank you. Yes, I like that.
No, my first thing, like dealing with the all this NIL and the coaches' new essentially job parameters. You know, would the old schools, coaches, how would they have ever dealt with this? And I think we got our answer that Nick Saban basically pieced out because
he was already
not
80.
What a coach is. Right.
And he was old as hell anyway.
Yeah, but I'm talking about your Tom Osborne's, and your Bobby Bowden's, and who was the guy from the Oklahoma Sooners way back when?
Stoops or before Stoops?
Those guys. Yeah, no, before Stoops.
Or Spurrier. What about Spurrier?
Yeah, Spurrier too.
Throw him in there.
So as a coach, you grow up in knowledge as a coach, and you work your way up the ranks, and now you're an NCAA coach, and your job is to win, right? That's what right. Your boosters, they want championships. They want wins. And so as a coach, you've honed your ability to win games. Now, like has been said a million times, now you have to recruit your own players. So your job description just became infinitely harder because not only do you have to try to win, but now you have to try to convince kids to stay that you've already recruited one time. I get it. It's just a reiteration of the same old. But to me, it kind of hit me today. It's like, wow, these coaches really do have to do something completely different than the way it was before. And the overall parking sentiment here is that NIL could potentially really be the ruin of the whole sport.
And that's why they need a GM, in my opinion.
Yeah. To your point, Dan, you were probably talking about Barry Switzer. If you were talking about the old school Oklahoma head coach. Yeah, I mean, you've just added another 25% of a job onto the head coach's plate to go and recruit these guys. I mean, sure, you can add a GM, but that's not who the players know, right? The players identify most.
That wouldn't work
with the head coach. So he's still got to be involved. It's not like the head coach can just wash his hands of it. As much as I wish they would do that with Dabo Swinney at Clemson, hire somebody who will handle that for you, Dabo, so that you don't have to touch it and feel like you're getting your hands dirty.
Well, and again, to DB's point, what I do think is interesting is a lot of these coaches, even who are like Dabo's age, they're trained, Diesel. They come up in a world where they're probably learning from older coaches who you knew nothing about NIL when you were learning how to coach. You were trying to grind your teeth in the business and just somehow land on a roster, right? Same thing in college basketball. But the added NIL, DB, one thing I'll say, I think you'll start seeing it leak more and more down to the high school level because everybody starts where?
Yeah.
Everybody starts in high school. They get their coaching start in high school. Most of them do. You have GAs and things like that. But I think you'll see it trickle down. And the reality of it is 15 years from now, every coach will have already dealt with NIL in the transfer portal, right?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, because they're going to be dealing with it as high school coaches talking to their players who are talking to the colleges.
Yeah.
And so they're helping to mediate where the player's going to end up potentially. So, yeah, even the high school coaches are having to deal with this new uncontrolled experiment of NIL. And I do have one more thing. Tolos out there, you are lacking severely in your upset picks this week. We are way behind schedule to even get 100.
Whip them into shape, Dan.
Are they depressed? Are they down?
All you non-pickers are going to end up with -2s this week.
Hey, that'll be good for me. That'll be good.
8 to 10 usually, but now we're looking at 20 to 30 potentially.
Actually, breaking news: the challenge has now halted just so Cole can catch up. I need the -2s. I'm kidding. I do need the -2s. All I can get though.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate that. Cole, I'm gonna hit you with mine real quick, and then we're gonna go to Tom on the phone line here. My beef this week, my Tolo takeover is, the hell is Greenville County doing, shooting down the penny tax to help fix the roads? Look, I understand why some people shot it down. You're saying we're already paying taxes on our gas. Every gallon of gas is supposed to go to this project, that project, and the state is abusing it and all over the place. If you're mad that your gas tax money is not being used, why do you keep voting in the same yahoos every single time? You're mad at yourself for not changing the person who is spending your money the wrong way. So here we are trying to create something that's going to build a fund that's going to fix all the potholes all over this damn county, and y'all shot it down. You voted it down. Greenville's the only county in the upstate, Cole, that doesn't have a penny sales tax to fix the roads.
Speaking of shooting it down, Texter from the 903 says it's right in the middle of deer season, and all my social media deer pages are commenting, what do you do if you see a monkey? Can you shoot it? One of the monkeys that escaped. If you didn't hear a minute ago, there were like 40 monkeys that escaped in South Carolina. All right, we're going to get to Tom, but I'll give you mine first. I like yours, by the way. I don't like potholes.
I don't like paying extra taxes either. But I also don't like hitting potholes.
I'm with you. You gotta meet somewhere in the middle, right? Mine happened today at lunch, Diesel. You ready for this? Here I am trying to be somewhat healthy. Everybody knows I could cut a few pounds, right? I'm trying my best to lose weight. We can all cut some pounds. So you know what I do? And when I really crave a sweet tea, I'll order an unsweet tea and I'll throw a Splenda in there, right? It's better than nothing. It's not a ton of sugar. Splenda, you know, I know a lot of people don't think Splenda's the best for you, but I'm avoiding the sugar. So at lunch today, I order an unsweet tea. The waitress looks at me and says, "Un?" And I said, "Yes, unsweet." And look, I'm sorry. I thought she was going to pull my American card.
I remember when we argued about sweet tea, unsweet tea, cutting it half and half on the 5 o'clock fight. And you told me that you have never ordered an unsweet tea, would never order an unsweet tea, and would never ever cut your sweet tea with unsweet tea.
I'm trying to use Splenda instead and just see if I can cut 1 or 2 lbs. But I was offended that the lady did not want to serve me unsweet tea. I know we live in the South, and I know, lady, I'm sorry, but I'm trying to lose a little weight. Maybe you should. God, Lucy, whatever her name was.
Did she need to lose a couple pounds?
Well, maybe 1 or 2. We all could. We all could. All right, Tom wants to chime in. It's Tom's turn to take over here on the Tolo Takeover. Tom, what's up?
Hey, I saw that thing about the monkeys. I started laughing. But the last caller that brought up the issues with NIL and y'all were talking about the GMs. I was actually talking about this with a client today, matter of fact. But what a lot of people don't know, and I actually found this out recently, if you go to any recruiting site, but primarily if you go to 247 Sports, you look at team rankings, right? Mm-hmm. They'll have 1 through whatever. You go click on a school, under their head coach, it'll give you another coach's name. And some schools have the title GM, but most of them are still sticking to the same player personnel title, player development title, whatever that may be. But the majority of the schools now do have someone in place. It's just a matter of the title of that position. Because I know a fella in the NIL agency world, and he was telling me it's, basically every Power 4 football school now has someone designated to that position. And, they're the ones that will handle a lot of the communications with the agents and such. But my biggest concern in all of this, and I love the NIL system, I think it's a great system. But the only thing that really concerns me is we're in the middle of basically the middle of November. We're in the final stretch of the year. You got teams fighting for playoff berths, and this is the time where you have to start, gathering intel on your recruiting class for the portal. And if there was just a way to delay the free agent period, because that's what it is, if they could just delay that free agent period in some way, shape, or form, I really think it would take a lot of the negative connotation out of all of this. But
you mean the transfer portal window,
we could talk
Tom?
about this forever, but
I mean, they already have a transfer portal window, and they tried to cut it down to just one transfer portal window to simplify it. Instead, they've kept it as 2 transfer portal windows. They've just shortened each one of them the number of days that it's open.
Right, which that's the problem, though, is your transfer portal window is going to open in early December when you've got schools competing for the playoff, you've got bowl games. There's so much. It's like the NCAA tournament. They have the transfer portal open the second weekend of the NCAA tournament. And if you're an elite program, if you're going to be active come that time, you have to start doing your research on players that are going to either enter the portal or not enter the portal in October, November. Otherwise, you're going to be 10 steps behind come the time that portal window opens. And, that's what makes all of this, in my opinion, so challenging is, they say tampering's not allowed, but at the same time, if there's not any form of tampering, how in the world are you going to be ready come that portal window? It's just the days and the deadlines for all this, that, and the other is what makes this so complicated. And I really wish that they could figure it out to where, okay, the season's going to end on January 20th. The season ends on January 20th. If you don't want to play in your bowl game, that's fine. But the portal opens January 21st, and you have till March 1st to go somewhere. Like, that should be the window, not necessarily, early December, if that makes sense.
It does. And thanks for the call, Tom. 844-FAN-PHONE. That's the way you can get in touch with the show. I mean, look, Tom, he knows his college football, man. He knows his NIL, doesn't he?
I've never heard anyone say that they like the NIL system.
Tom does.
That we have. And the problem, Tom, is you say you like the system, but then you just laid out the fact that we don't have a system. that the system is completely pointless. Not pointless, but it's so all over the place that there's no set rules. There's no windows that are convenient and appropriate for all programs. It's the good programs who are still playing meaningful basketball who kind of get screwed by being busy while the window is active. I've never heard anybody say they like the system.
Michael in Simpsonville chimes in on the text line, says, look at Cole choosing a few pounds over cancer. LOL. Talking about my Splenda. God, man. I mean, is Splenda, is it proven to give you cancer? I'll have to look that up. Diesel, we do have upset picks coming. We have time to fit a short high school player of the week interview in here.
That's right. We're going to do both of those in the next segment. Going to call for your upset picks, and we'll talk with
Aiden Gibson of Woodruff High School.
That's next. Tolos, you heard it from Dan B. Trying to whip you into shape, wondering what's going on with you. Where are you at in the Wire to Wire Upset Picks Challenge? We are currently, as of the message we just got from Michael in Simpsonville, who's taking Duke versus NC State because his wife went to NC State. That's a good enough reason as any, I guess, to pick the game.
It probably hit.
We need your upset picks. He makes 67 Tolos who are in the challenge, which, again, tells us that a whole lot of you who pick regularly are not getting in your upset picks. And you don't want to lose 2 points.
No, you don't.
Got to remind you, if you don't make a pick at all, you lose 2 points in the challenge. So do us a favor. Hit us up, 71307. Give us a text with the word fan to start your message, and then send us your name, your game, and the spread, and tell us who you think is going to get that big upset this weekend. We've had Tolos, Cole, who have jumped in over the past couple of weeks. We always have, 5-10 new Tolos each week, and it's a blast to get in this challenge because you can jump in late and still make your way up the leaderboard.
True.
The thing is, Cole, there are Tolos who are currently on the top half of the graphic because we have so many Tolos who have points. We have top 50 and 50 and below. You can get into the top 50 in this challenge with a 17-point hit.
Well, I'm going to hit this week, by God.
You think so?
Yes. I'm confident.
Interesting. Okay, so all you got to do is go to ESPN.com, find a game where you think the betting underdog will win the game outright, and then text it to us at 71307. Give us your name, your game, and the spread. We've had quite a number of Tolos this week taking Indiana at Notre Dame. Michigan at Indiana. Notre Dame Nate took that game. We have Shane Barrett taking ULM against Texas State, as did Hurricane Jeff. Isaac wants Middle Tennessee State plus 11 over Liberty. Got a handful who have taken Georgia Tech plus 11 points at Miami. Brandon Gosnell took that game. So, hey, hit us up with your picks.
Diesel, we have a quick high school player of the week interview. However, we do have Rick and Harold, which that could be a radio show in itself right there, who want to chime in. Let's first quickly go to Rick. What's up, Rick?
Okay, I know the Tolo takeover's over.
Yeah, you're late, man. Can you show me your tardy pass?
No. I got a 1-minute rant.
All right.
I took my girlfriend out to eat at a nice restaurant in Greer. We get the food. It was average food. It was an Italian restaurant. I'm not going to say the name of it.
Does it rhyme with Schmal of Schmarden?
Maybe.
Okay.
We get the food. It was $276 for 2 people.
God.
The food was good. Wasn't worth that, but I was going to pay the bill till I looked at it. I drink tea. I don't drink. The tea was $5 a glass. They charged me $20 for tea. They charged me $5 every time I got a refill.
Yeah.
That ain't right.
That ain't right.
That ain't right. I'm going to boycott that restaurant. I won't go back out to eat in Greer. I guess I'll have to go to Woodruff or Greenville or somewhere to eat. I live in Greer. I'm not eating anymore in Greer. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, Rick. That's awful, man. What kind of self-respecting Southerner charges you for sweet tea refills?
I'm not calling Rick a liar, but I've never heard that before. I mean, have you charging for tea refills? That's rough. And Rick, good to hear from you. Harold wants to chime in. Harold in Greenville. Harold, what's up, man?
Doing fine. I just wanted to, you answered one question. I'm going to pick, it'd probably be tomorrow, but I got a couple I got 13 and a half points, and I want to know how many points I need to get in the top 25.
These will tell you. Give
Harold,
me a second.
You, let me just double check here for you. Yes, you do. You have 13 and a half points. If you want to get into the top 25, now that's the top 25 as it stands right now. Yeah. That's going to change as everybody else gets their picks in. But top 25 is at 26 points or more.
Okay, that's what I'm shooting for. This is just my third week, so I got the last half. I'm gonna try to get to the 25. I got 2 games I'm undecided. That's Georgia Tech, and it's the biggest spread in Michigan. But Clemson, so Virginia Tech is what, 6.5?
Yes, that's correct.
And Virginia is what, 7 against.
I'm going to try. Nobody's taken that Virginia game yet. Harold, give me just a second. I'll look it up and be able to tell you. It'll take me about 3 seconds to get there. The Virginia game. That one is a 7.5 point spread. Virginia 7.5 point dogs on the road at Pitt.
Okay, well that's what I'm leaning against. I'm sorry, it's going to be one of the Georgia Tech. Somebody's going down, guys. Georgia Tech or Indiana. Somebody's going.
Are you willing to fight with Madcraft if Miami goes down this week?
What do you mean fight with him?
Well, because he's a hardcore Miami Hurricane fan, and you might have to scrap him.
All right, I got a good friend. She went to, she's my adopted daughter, I call her. I mean, that's where she went to, and I always I hate to pick against them, but listen, I'm gonna tell you right now, nobody's got it. I was gonna wait till tomorrow, but I'm gonna go ahead and give him a pick now.
All right, let's go.
I want Virginia in 7 against Pittsburgh.
You got it.
Thanks, Harold.
Thank you, Harold.
Have a good one now.
Now, Virginia, that's an interesting pick. I just don't know. They've been bad.
Pitt's been blowing a lot of teams out this year, and this is a 4-4 Virginia on the road.
Yeah,
and it's weird to me that they're only 7-point dogs at
It is
Pitt.
weird.
So it's gonna be a fascinating game. Appreciate Harold in the phone call there.
Gonna hop right back into the upset picks. However, I did have a chance to catch up with Aiden Gibson, our Fan Upstate High School Player of the Week. We got his graphic out on our socials earlier today. We always air the interview with our Player of the Week. Here's Woodruff's Aiden Gibson. It is the Fan Upstate Player of the Week for Week 10. You've heard the promo running right here on the Fan Upstate all week long. Woodruff's Aiden Gibson on Friday night against Union County. Aiden had 19 carries, 189 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, 4 receptions for 48 yards, and the receiving touchdown. He is number 32 of Woodruff High School, Aiden Gibson. Aiden, how are you, man?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Appreciate you hopping on. Look, you had a big game on Friday night against Union County. 189 yards off of 19 carries, 2 rushing touchdowns, 4 more receptions, and a receiving touchdown. Going into that game, did you feel like there was a big performance coming?
Yes, sir. Me and my team, we focused on just being ourselves and playing hard all week. That's just a mentality that we have. And going into that game, me and my O-line and our offense was just ready to play the game and just compete.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome that you have that mentality going into the game. Was it something that gave you that mentality specifically, like the film you watched on Union? No disrespect to them, or was it something that you just felt like it happened during the game where you got rolling?
Just the film, I felt like we could just go in and just my coaches and our teammates and everybody just felt like we can go in and dominate. And that's just what we did.
Talking to Aiden Gibson, the Fan Upstate Player of the Week for Week 10. Aiden, how'd you handle the couple of bye weeks we had earlier in the year? A hurricane obviously hit, something that we haven't experienced in our neck of the woods before. How did you handle that, and what'd you do to kind of keep your body right during that time?
I handle it well. Me and my teammates and coaches handle it well. We got a great coaching staff and head coach and strength coach that just kept our bodies just always healthy, and they just worked on us and kept us straight and conditioned us in days that we got back from the hurricane, and things that we did we just kept playing and practicing and conditioning as the days went by.
Do you feel like, because I talk to a lot of coaches and players on a weekly basis on this show as well as the Saturday Morning Scramble on Saturday mornings where we talk just high school football, but did you feel like after that break, you guys with practice and everything were almost starting the season back over?
Yeah, in some way, yes, because of going that long without playing the game and not practicing for a while, it just did something to it. but we came back, and just kept competing in practice.
Now, Aiden, you guys have had a fantastic season at Woodruff. Your coach, Brett Sloan, he does a fantastic job with that program. I want to go back to one game specifically with MVP, kind of a shootout earlier this season. Talk about that game. Obviously you guys were on the wrong end of it, but kind of the flow of that game and what y'all's mindset is after that loss.
After that loss, well, going into the game, we was just ready to compete. That's a mindset that defense and offense and special teams, that's just a mindset that we have, is always to compete. And after that game, we our heads was down, but we have a 24-hour rule, so let it hurt for a day, and next day it's time to get back to work, and that's just what we did. But we just stay humble, and that's just what we needed, and it just kept us humble, and we're just going to get back.
I like that a lot, man. I like that mindset. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I like that 24-hour rule, kind of flushing it, letting it go, and moving on. You guys had a big win against Union County on Friday. Woodruff plays Broome. Is that right, Aiden?
Yes, sir.
What do you know about this Broome team? Obviously, you had a really big game against Union County, but what's Coach's message been to you this week about this Broome team y'all play tomorrow?
We can't take them for granted, even though no matter how anybody record looks, we can't take no team for granted. And when we play a team, we're just showing people that we're going to the top and that we're going to have a big run, and they're going to have to deal with Woodruff for a very long time.
I like that a lot. You specifically, do you like running the ball more? Do you like catching the ball more? What's your favorite thing to do on the field?
Me personally, I just like running the ball. Last year, my 9th grade year, I loved just catching the ball and just having receiving yards. But this year, I just really love running the ball because, my O-line has a heck of a job. They do a great job blocking, because without them, I don't know where I'll be. My O-line has a heck of a job and does a great job blocking and schemes and things that they do.
Now, you said something just now. You said last year, your freshman year. Does that mean you're a sophomore? Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Wow. Listen, Aiden, that's a big-time performance as a sophomore. Really well-spoken as a sophomore as well. Appreciate you hopping on. Before we let you go, though, when Aiden Gibson's not playing football on Friday nights, where can you find Aiden? What's Aiden like to do off the field?
Off the field, I really just like, days I don't have football, I go to the field and work on my craft and things like that, play the game, be with family.
Yeah.
And most of the time, just with my family most of the time and having fun outside of it and just playing the game and just, doing me and having fun.
Aiden, in a dream scenario, where could you see yourself after you graduate high school?
And, well, hopefully my plan is to just, go play college football with a college team that would love to just have me on their team and just, competing at the high level that I think I can compete at, and that's most likely, as a football player, most football players, that's what you want to do, is to dream to go play college football and to do that and just compete at a high level.
Aiden, fantastic stuff, man. Congratulations on being our Fan Upstate Player of the Week. We've been running the promo all week long. We've got the graphic now out on our socials, and best of luck tomorrow night against Broome.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Diesel, by the way, I know you will not like to hear this, but he just got offered by Coastal a few weeks ago.
Oh.
So, little Sun Belt rival there for you. And look, that kid's
do the right thing. Go somewhere else.
That kid's a sophomore.
Wow.
Kid's a sophomore getting some offers. He's going to be good, man.
Yeah, if you're getting Division I offers as a sophomore, that's usually when the FCS offers come in. They think,
man.
hey man, if we can get this guy now, if we can maintain the relationship for the next 2 years, there's a good chance we get a player that's probably a little above our station and our status. So that's going to be fascinating to see.
There's a lot of seniors
where he ends up going
that would like to get offers from Coastal.
Yeah, we have been having you on over the years on this station, and one of the most fascinating conversations to me is recruiting and who's getting offers where. And I know these guys are still, a couple of weeks away from starting to make these big time decisions, especially the seniors. Would love to have a conversation sometime over the next 2 weeks or so about some of the biggest recruits coming out of the state of South Carolina. And, we know that Shane Beamer's putting up a wall around the state. The question is Dabo Sweeney interested in going after any of these guys as well?
No, that's a good question. Texter, by the way, says, I took my son to the Woodruff MVP game a few weeks ago. It was one of the best games I've seen in a long time. Texter, it was. It was a very high-scoring game. I asked Aiden about that one. It's a good game, and Woodruff came out on the losing end, but should be a lot of fun to see how they finish the season. Diesel?
Yep.
I have a very important question when we return. And I mean, like, you and I have been doing this show since February, March, sometime around then.
Yeah,
this
is show 160.
Oh, we're getting up there.
Yeah.
Getting old, are we?
Yeah, we are.
This is one of the most important questions I have ever asked on these airwaves. That's next. Diesel, there is a burning question that I have to ask. You know, you're going on vacation next week. There's a good chance I won't be here tomorrow. I've got a few things I have to take care of tomorrow. So it'll be a few days before we see each other. So with that being said, this is very important. This has got to be discussed. And I know you don't like having these types of conversations. I know it's tough, but we need to have it.
You're cheating on me?
No, never. When is the appropriate time to start decorating for Christmas? I went to Walmart yesterday at like 7:30 in the morning, so I was still half asleep, and I walked in the lawn and garden area, and there was no lawn and garden area at Walmart. It was
all fake Christmas trees?
100% Christmas, winter wonderland. And people, 7:30 in the morning, are buying Christmas decorations on a freaking random Wednesday. I don't know why, but they are. So we have to discuss, and Tolos, I want to hear from you as well, 71307, keyword fan, and also phone lines are open, 844-326-3663. Is it too soon right now?
Yes, it's too soon. Yes, it's too soon. Well, Cole, there's some Tolos out there saying if you never took last year's decorations down, you don't have to decorate.
That's when
this
you
year.
know you're redneck.
There's a couple of people in my neighborhood, Cole, that still have like icicle lights up around their house. They never took them down. It is redneck.
It's so redneck.
It's awful. It's awful. Come on, go get some like classy looking, like decent looking string lights. Don't just leave the cheap icicle lights up all year long. Cole, by the way, did you know that everybody knows Spirit Halloween, right? There is
There's
an offshoot called Spirit Christmas, where it's the same company.
No, I had no idea.
They just do like pop up. I guess they take control of the Eckards and they'll Rite Aid
What is
stores.
it with these pop up places? I mean, between those and like the pop up,
like nobody. I mean, think about it. Like,
well, you couldn't, outfit it 11 months of the year.
Yeah, you just sell Christmas gear and crap for like 2 months, and
as long as they have in the parking lot the pop up steaks. You seen those? I've seen those a lot recently in Spartanburg. Pop ups, big old steak
in
truck.
the Spirit Halloween.
Yeah, might as well.
It's a one-stop shop for all the stuff you don't really need.
I just, I'll tell you my opinion. I love Christmas, but here's something weird, and then maybe it's not just me. Let me know if you agree with this. I love Christmas, Diesel, but in order to get in the Christmas spirit, it's got to be cold outside.
Yeah, I don't get into the Christmas spirit until like 3 days before Christmas.
Okay, if it's tomorrow, it's supposed to be like 83 freaking degrees.
Love it.
In November.
Take that, you stinking people who won't get rid of daylight savings time.
It's going to be hot tomorrow.
I'm gonna have to get outside and do some yard work.
You
tomorrow.
should. And I just don't
put down some grass seed.
I don't know why, but like, you know, we've lived all through them, and we've all experienced like a warm Christmas. But like, you wake up Christmas Day in the high 67. I mean, it's just not. It should be cold. So I can't start getting in the Christmas mood until it's actually Christmas time. Now, I don't know.
Well, I thought the Democrats controlled the weather, though.
I don't believe
that's
that.
what people say.
They might. I don't believe that. It's got to be cold for me. CJ from Greer says, I've always put my tree up while watching the Army-Navy game.
Interesting. Interesting.
I was going to Google. When is the Army-Navy game? Google?
Army-Navy game is December 14th. So 11 days before Christmas. My wife,
late.
Ashley, goes and gets a Christmas tree at Thanksgiving. Like we go up and see my parents in North Carolina.
Yeah.
When we come home on our drive home, we've just been on like a 2-hour road trip. We've braved I-85 and the chute through Spartanburg County. All I want to do is go home. And she's like, "Hey, you want to go shopping for a Christmas tree?" No, I don't.
You know
but
what?
Then guess what? We go shopping for a Christmas tree.
A lot of people do it on Thanksgiving. A lot of people do it the Saturday after Thanksgiving in terms of putting the tree up, getting ready.
You know, my Tolo takeover, I'm going to predict it here in a couple weeks, is going to be why the hell are Christmas trees so expensive?
So that's a good one.
They've gotten really expensive.
I'll tell you this. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm always a real tree, not the camo brand, but the real tree kind of guy. I like the real thing, right?
Natural. Yeah.
Natural. However, as I was in Walmart yesterday, I was walking through the Christmas section.
Don't tell me.
No, I didn't buy one, but
I thought about it.
You know what I did?
Did you walk up next to it and like you're an old man buying a car, you cross your arms a little bit?
No, I didn't. But I'll tell you what
base.
you know what crossed my mind when I walked by those fake trees? The amount of times that I had a vacuum after last Christmas.
Don't see now you're thinking about it. That's the problem, Cole. Is you're doing the internal cost benefit analysis. So
Vacuuming freaking Christmas tree.
I know these things are $500, but like that's going to pay for itself in like 4 years.
I saw one for like 128, 130, 150. So it crossed my mind. Now it doesn't look good. It's got holes everywhere. I like a big, thick Christmas tree, right? Full.
I'm going to tell you how you fix that. You go on Amazon, and because my wife she has 3 Christmas trees up in the house every year.
That's a lot.
We got the real one, the main one that goes in the living room. Mm-hmm. And then we've got a small artificial one that goes in the corner of our dining room.
Yeah.
And then her parents always come and stay with us, and she puts up a small one in their house too. They make picks. It's just like a wire stick.
Picks.
A pick. Yeah.
Picks.
Speaking of which, get in your picks for the wire
I like that, but
it's just a piece of wire with some artificial. Usually, it's more Christmas tree like branches, or it can be a fake bird or whatever, snowflakes, whatever it may be, and you put those picks in, and it fills out the tree.
Okay, I like that. However, even when I go like last year, I bought a natural tree last year, and I was, to your point, I was not happy with the price. It was a small tree.
Sucks, right?
Well, it was probably 6.5 foot tall, and it was expensive for a real tree. It was expensive. So, look, I have always my entire life been an original kind of guy. Give me the real thing.
I want the smell, right? Like I got a chainsaw now. I can cut up the tree into small little blocks.
Hey, you need to go cut your own tree now that you have a chainsaw.
That's true.
When you're coming back from North Carolina, find one of those places you can go cut your own tree.
Hey, Griswold, where do you think you're going to stick a tree that big? Bend over and I'll show you.
Now that movie can get you in the spirit. God, there's not a better movie on the face of the earth, is there? There's not a better movie. We could spend an hour on that. Diesel, we have the old ball coach joining us next.
Yes, we do. Clay Hendricks, head football coach of the Furman Paladins, next. It's Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson, efforting to bring on Clay Hendricks, head football coach of the Furman Paladins. Going to try him again here in just a second. Brian Pettit asks if we're going to be at Fall for Greenville Saturday night. He says he will be working that night. He works with the city. Brian, there's a chance that I'm going to be down at Fall for Greenville this weekend. I always try to go at least one day every year because it's such a great way to get to connect with the city each and every year, right? It's supposed to have been a couple of weeks ago. The weather, thankfully, holding out. It's going to be a little crisper, a little cooler than it has been in years past, but really excited about Fall for Greenville again this year. So we go to the phone lines right now as we have Clay Hendricks, the head football coach of the Furman Paladins, right here with us on the Fan Up Stadium as he is each and every week. Coach, tough game last week. A strip sack turned into points late in the first half, and that kind of proved too much to overcome, even though you did put a touchdown on the board there in the third quarter. What was your message to your quarterback, to Trey Hedden, to keep his head up the rest of that game? And what is your method for coaching ball security? Every coaching staff has their own way they like to do it.
Well, it really wasn't even a strip sack. It was a little naked play out in the flat, and we kind of harped on throwing the ball to the back in the flat. He was wide open, and we didn't. And then we decided to try to, throw a 40-yard go route to a guy that was covered with a guy coming right down on top of us. And, it was just trying to make a throw and get hit in the act of throwing it. So, that's probably been the thing. It's just been frustrating, just tragic, just critical mistakes we've made. And, name of our whole season's been turnovers. And they, largely been at the quarterback position. So we're just working, continuing hard. I think it's more about decisions, which I actually think is maybe even better because I think we can fix those. If we just wouldn't take care of the ball because we carry it loosely, I think we're minus 10 turnovers for the year. We've only lost one fumble by a running back and one fumble we sold a punt return. We dropped the punt return. Every other one's come from the quarterback position. So, we work at it every day. But again, I think largely it's go back, make good decisions. It's okay to punt sometimes, and that's just kind of been our focus. And, we got two guys there that can make plays for us, and we win games with them. But we've got to eliminate those, just those critical mistakes we're making.
Coach, for those out there listening that may be curious, as a head football coach, with you being at Furman, what do you do? What's your kind of game plan week to week during practice to try to coach those penalties out of your team?
Well, I don't know. It's just the way you try to make practice as much as you can like a game. We have, just in team reps along every week, we have 32 snaps on Tuesdays and Wednesday of good on good. So again, I think you're trying to create, more as game-like as you can. Now that's just in team reps. Now, certainly we do 7-on-7 where it's good on good, but it's, in the team reps, we're obviously not tackling, but it is a third time. So, as a ball carrier, you can get hit pretty good. We have a few little things we try to do to be smart about it and be safe, but, just, you're going to play like you practice. And so, we've done a pretty good job of taking care of the ball in practice. It's again, probably some poor decisions, that have become some interceptions and different things that we've got to continue to work at. And, I don't know what else you can do. We do little drill work. We do ball security stuff with our entire team, but it's nothing. We've been one of the best teams in the country in turnover march in the last couple of years, and all of a sudden it's changed. And so we got to figure out what that is.
Coach, you got a big game coming up this weekend, playing host to the Wofford Terriers, oldest rivalry in the state, I think is what they call it. Do you believe in the throw the record books out the window mantra, or is that something that guys like us, Cole and I, say that's really just kind of fairy dust?
Well, I think anytime you're playing, I certainly would label this a rivalry game, largely just because nothing else, our proximity. We actually are the oldest rivalry in the South. We played the first game. I think some other teams try to claim that, but we And then I actually was here in 1989, my second year coaching. We played them, I remember, the 100th anniversary game in South Carolina, the first game in South Carolina. But, I think there's a little extra incentive, a little extra motivation. I think anytime you play these games, we seem to have quite a few of these games, which is good. That's a good thing. I kind of felt that way when I was at the Air Force Academy. When you played either Army or Navy, I literally felt like if it was somebody was 0-10, somebody was 10-0, you were going to have to fight your life to find a way to win. Probably in those games, it's a little bit more that way because of the schematics. Everybody was running the version triple option, and everybody defended triple option pretty good because they saw it all the time. But, and at Wofford, there's a lot of similarities, even the way we do things as far as X and O's. So I think it's going to come down to, I think the physicality part's going to play a huge role in this game, and then who can certainly go execute, at a high level. And, it should be a heck of a game.
We're joined by Clay Hendricks, the head football coach of the Furman Paladins. Coach, we all know what Wofford, used to be under Mike Ayers. What have you noticed different about this team with Sean Watson? They've obviously had a coach in between Ayers and Sean Watson, but Sean Watson now the head football coach over in Spartanburg. What tendencies do you see when you watch this Wofford team on film?
Well, I don't know Sean really well. I've gotten to know him the last couple of years. I really like him. He's a little of an older school guy like me. You can tell they want to run the football and they want to play action off of it and play good defense. And so I think we believe in a lot of the same things. We're at similar institutions. We're at two schools where you can't just recruit anybody. We play against a lot of those schools, but so I think we have some similarities there. But do a really good job of throwing the ball down the field. He's an old quarterback guy, and he's been a lot of big places and been a coordinator for a long time. I think he largely runs it, what they do offensively. So that, they make you defend the whole field. They make you defend the physical part of the game. And again, I think a lot of those same things we believe in. So, it's kind of, two similar schools, programs, styles of play. It'll come down to really who can do their stuff the best.
Coach, is there an offensive concept from an X's and O's standpoint that's always kind of fascinated you or intrigued you that you've never had the chance to coach before, but always catches your attention? Like, oh, that's really cool what they're doing over there.
Well, I don't know. I think everybody copies everybody. And I think, at some point we've had, when I've been, I've been an offensive coach, I was an offensive coach my entire career, and I've coached in the academy triple option, and I've always kind of, I don't know. I think I probably had a chance to do a little bit. I've never coached in the air raid type offense. I've been with programs where we had some tendencies of it. I've never really done that. I don't know. I'm an old offensive line coach, so I'm not sure that's what I'd want to do. But I enjoyed. There are a few NFL teams I like to watch more than others. I've always, enjoyed those programs that took really pride in running the football. There's a lot of ways to do that. There's some air raid type teams that do a really good job of that. So I think we're always trying to do things that help us. I think you got to always kind of be evolving a little bit, and a lot of it's just the strength of your players. But I don't know if there's any just one style that I'd say I enjoyed more than others.
Coach, what is your favorite Wofford Furman memory?
Wow. You know what? I can't remember. I think it was early 2000s. Probably Billy Napier might have been our quarterback, the Florida coach. And Wofford had a really good team. To be honest with you, I think they probably had a little better team than we did. And I remember we went over there and played. You'd be able to find it. And I think we kind of led the whole game. What I remember is Spartanburg High, used to play there all the time on Friday night.
Yeah.
And they played the night before in an absolute deluge rainstorm. So you can imagine what the field was like. And Wofford in those days was still doing a lot of the wing tee option type stuff. And they were really good. And I really to this day believe that field probably helped us a little bit. we led the whole game, and then they finally took the lead, and then we had a 2-minute drive. I think Billy hit, maybe one of, trying to remember who Billy hit in a little bit of a 2-minute drive to go down and win the game.
Is Brian Blanton? Is that it?
No, I don't think it was Brian. I think it might have been one of those Steps, Justin Stepp, who's now in South Carolina. He's now coaching at Illinois. It might have been Justin. He hit him a little slant right there to win the game. But we had some really good games with them, and and then I was gone for 10 years. And I think 2 years ago here we might have played as well as maybe any game we've ever played in. We scored 60-something points. It was one of those days where everything we did was right. You don't get many of those days, but yeah, we've had some good games with them.
Talking to Clay Hendricks, head football coach at Furman on the Fan Upstate. You brought him up. If you could give Billy Napier any advice, whether it be coaching standpoint, whether it be dealing with the fan base down there in Florida, I know that's a hornet's nest that he's dealing with down there. Just generally speaking, what kind of kind words would you have for Billy, who, by the way, just was announced earlier today that they are bringing him back at Florida next year?
Yeah, I saw that, and I think that's a great decision. And I'm obviously a little biased because I'm a Billy Napier fan, but I just, the reality of the world. I mean, I think if they don't lose their quarterback last week, they might be Georgia. I actually was watching that game on the way home last week. You know what, Billy, I don't talk to Billy a lot. He'll send me a note here or there. And, I think the best advice I ever got, usually the advice you get when things aren't going well, is just kind of, stick to your principles. I think Billy's a high principle guy. Stay the course. I think he's, had a proven track record everywhere he's been. And just try to get a little better at something each day. And I try to remember. I've tried to remember that this year. And I think again, I think he's a heck of a guy and a heck of a coach, and I think they're fortunate to have him. I can't imagine some of the. It's the world they've created in college football and college athletics. And I can imagine the things that he deals with that none of us have any idea about, just with that kind of stuff. But I'd be shocked if kids don't love playing for him. He's a tough-minded kind of guy. So I'm certainly pulling for him. And he had a great career here. And, like I said, he's a heck of a person.
Coach, just so you know, that was you're right. I looked it up. I didn't fact check you, but I was a little intrigued by that because I cover a lot of high school football here on the Fan Upstate. It was Spartanburg, Fort Dorchester on November the 15th. It was a 44-7 win on November 15th, 2022. Doc Davis, pretty good football coach over at Spartanburg. That was the game before you guys played the very next day, and it did say, I did find where it was a downpour kind of night.
Yeah.
Coach,
what year was that?
2002.
Yeah, that was Billy's senior year.
Yep.
It's 2001 we had played for the national championship, and then had a really good team in 2002 as well. And they had a heck of a drive down there. I think it was, and again, I think it was Justin Stepp.
Wow.
And again, Justin, was coaching in South Carolina. Now he's a receiver coach at Illinois. But yeah, that was just, like I said, I thought they probably were a little better than us. I thought the weather probably helped us. And again, we kind of we led the whole game and gave up a score and then had a heck of a drive to go win. So, yeah.
Coach, we were talking earlier about, playing in these rivalry games, this Wofford-Furman game coming up this weekend. Number one, what kind of challenges does Wofford present that you haven't really faced yet this year? And number two, do you still get a little bit of a buzz when you're facing off against a rival like that?
Yeah, I told you, it's funny here. I've been through, I've been here. This is my 31st year at Furman in some capacity. And, the main rival has changed lots of years. And we've been fortunate to have some success. I always felt like we kind of got to everybody's best shot, or we were everybody's rival. But yeah, I do. I mean, this is senior day for us. This is our last home game, so we're gonna get a chance to honor those guys. Play Wofford here, and I don't know that they're any different from anybody we've seen. I think they do a really terrific job defensively. They've been just outstanding in red zone defense, which I think is really the name of the game. They've done a really good job down there, and which has given them a chance, even when they've had some quarterback issues with some injuries. I think they've got their guy back now. And, it's like I said, I think it's just a solid team in every aspect, have good players, and, coaches do a good job, and that's a pretty good combination, when you have those things. So, like I said, we'll have to be our best to have a chance to go get a win. But I think we played our most complete game. I think a week ago when I looked at I don't think we've been even close to playing 4 quarters of pretty good football. And I thought we did that a week ago. It was one of those deals where statistically it was, if you looked at statistics, you would have thought that we'd won the game by 5 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So that's why you don't look at the stats, but it's turnover margin. It's third down. We were great I think they were 1 of 9. We were 10 of 18. You think those 2 things alone you'd win, but we were -3 in turnover margin, and it did a poor job in the red zone, and that's kind of what cost us.
Coach,
so if we'll continue to fix those things, I think we're getting a little better, and I think it'll continue to show up.
Hey, look, I know you're not supposed to say anything nice about Spartanburg or Wofford, as the head coach of the Furman Paladins, but if I took Clay Hendricks over to Spartanburg, where would Clay Hendricks make me stop to eat his favorite spot in all of Spartanburg?
Well, I haven't been there enough to be able to say that, but I have been to the Beacon quite a few times.
Good answer. So
I could do that. And, Mike Ayers was one of my favorite people. I got to know him when I was a young coach, and, coach calls me every year right before the season and just, and wishes me luck. He's probably not wishing me luck Saturday, and that's okay, but no, I hadn't spent a lot of time over there in the eating establishments, but I know how to get to the Beacon.
Well, I hope you score points aplenty this weekend. How about that, Coach?
Well, I'll take all we can get. We've been saving them up, so I hope they'll show up this week.
Coach, thanks so much.
Yeah,
Clay Hendricks.
It's going to be a big weekend for them, man. And look, I was out there a couple of weeks ago when they played Western Carolina, another rival, and I saw the way that Furman does up a big time game day like that. And I'm telling you guys, don't sleep on Furman in the game day experience. They really, really go all out. They had a big, had a big fan fest experience right out in front of the stadium. It's a fantastic way to spend a Saturday.
It is, man. And I have not been out there yet, but he said it. They've had a tough season. They're trying to get better and better, but that's what you do when you have a tough season. You find little things to work on. And, I asked him a couple of weeks ago about that, when you're having a season like you are now, do you kind of find joy sometimes, like in the journey, in the process, of trying to actually get better? Because look, winning's hard, right? It's hard. It is not, everybody can't win. Everybody can't win every single week. Somebody has to lose. And Furman's a young team. They're a very young team. Diesel, when we come back, let's look at our respective Clemson, South Carolina, our respective teams in the state this weekend. And we know that normally when you talk about Vanderbilt, it's not a pressure game, right? But with Clemson coming off of a loss, South Carolina coming off of a big win, who do you and I think has not more pressure, but who do we have more concern about this weekend? Tolos, want to hear from you as well. In the very next segment, we'll get into South Carolina and Clemson and their respective opponents next. Clemson making the trip up to Blacksburg this weekend, South Carolina and Nashville, Tennessee. Who do we have more concern about? South Carolina, and look, I know it's Vandy or Clemson on the road at VT. South Carolina Diesel has had a habit in times past of, after a really big win, kind of having a letdown week, if you will. I've had a lot of people, Gamecock fans this week, tell me, hey, look, yeah, it's Vandy, but the problem is they're good, and we always have a letdown. So do you have more concern about Clemson or South Carolina and their respective opponents this weekend, Diesel?
I have more concern about South Carolina. Virginia Tech plays good defense some weeks and then gives up a ton of points other weeks. Not to say that in any way, shape, or form am I saying that Miami and Clemson have similar offenses, because Miami can score against anybody. Clemson can't. But Virginia Tech gave up 38 points to Miami.
Yeah.
They gave up 31 points to Syracuse. They gave up 38 points also to Syracuse. And then they've had good defensive performances where they gave up 6 in a win to Georgia Tech, 7 in a win at Stanford. This Virginia Tech defense is up and down, up and down, up and down. And I think Garrett Riley, with the embarrassment of what happened last week and an extra week to stew over it and to put things together, I think Clemson's going to come out firing. Now, obviously, if this was a 6:30 game or 7 o'clock game on Saturday, I think it'd be a different story. The environment would be absolutely electric there, but I think it's going to be tamped down just a little bit on Saturday. And I think Clemson is probably going to get a somewhat comfortable but low scoring win. If it was 31-17, I wouldn't be shocked. 28-17.
So it's a 3:30 kick. Clemson's favored by 6 over 5-4 Virginia Tech, who's 3-2 in their conference. So when I asked the question, you obviously have to look at both sides. South Carolina, I agree with you from the aspect of, you know what? South Carolina has the chance to really finish strong based on what we've seen, the way their defense has played all season long and the way their offense played last week against a really good A&M team. I understand the concern there. South Carolina fans do not want to lose to Vandy, because you throw the word consistency right out the door. Shane Beamer's building something special. The last thing you need is to take a step back. However, when you ask about more concern, if Clemson were to lose on Saturday at 3:30 to Virginia Tech, there was a lot of conversation. There was a lot of heat, upset Clemson fans after their embarrassing performance Saturday against Louisville. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned this or not. It's an unranked Louisville team. It's who they lost to. So there were a lot of upset Clemson fans, deservingly so. We know they didn't even stay. They left early. They emptied that place out. I cannot imagine, Diesel, if the Tigers were to go up to Blacksburg on Saturday and crap the bed, what excuse does Dabo have now? Because we heard him after the game, right? We're still a 6-2 team. Yeah, but what excuse would you have? I don't know. Last year was not good. Clemson took a step back last year, and it was a tough year. Tyler from Spartanburg turned them around single-handedly. But I just don't know, Diesel. If they lose to Virginia Tech this week, I don't know if Tyler from Spartanburg would be enough.
Well, Clemson fans were cautiously optimistic that, after that blowout loss to Georgia to start the season, you go on a run where you're beating up on everybody. You're putting up, 500 yards of offense every week for like 6 weeks straight. They had this optimism that okay, it was just a bad game. That's all it was. It was a bad game. Buzzsaw early season. Georgia just had our number, whatever, right? Make whatever excuses you want. But you were hoping beyond hope that that's where you were as a program. We're back. We're feeling good. And then you just showed that when you face a team that won't just roll over for you, you don't have anything for them.
No.
And Cole, after if it were to happen 2 weeks in a row, Clemson fans couldn't deny what they see in front of their faces. I think we've had a fair bit of denial over the past week from Clemson fans. You know, the ones who won't even call in, who won't voice an opinion that's negative against Dabo. I mean, shocker, Cole, we had almost nobody calling in and saying it's Dabo's fault. You know?
No, you're not going to hear that. You're not going to hear that. I mean, you're out of excuses. So to answer the question, I think Clemson does have more concern, in my opinion. I just don't know, like South Carolina, to say they can't afford to lose this game, they've already lost 3 games. I wouldn't necessarily go there. They don't need to lose this game by any stretch. I'm not saying they can afford to lose it, but I'm just saying we're talking about Clemson fans not even knowing what to do after last week and what they saw, Diesel. I don't want to act like Clemson has bigger problems right now than South Carolina, because at the end of the day, I don't know that they do. They're in the ACC, right? Not a lot of problems in the ACC. You should be able to win a lot of games. However, if you don't look competent, if you somehow, some way were to lose the game, all of a sudden, I think there's a serious conversation to be had about how this Clemson program is any different than what Tommy Bowden had at Clemson. I mean, Tommy Bowden won big games, but they weren't consistent. And then Dabo came along and put together a really nice program. But if you were to lose, that would be 3 losses already, with South Carolina still on the horizon. You'll make a bowl game, but hoop-de-doo, right? There's no shot you're going to make the playoff.
Yeah, you're going to the irrelevant bowl.
Irrelevant bowl. And that's my concern. And look, Clemson fans probably won't admit it, but Clemson fans have to be nervous out of there. You know what, right now, because it's all over. If you lose to Virginia Tech Saturday, it is all over. I mean, burn it down.
This, Cole, I know that you don't watch a lot of movies, but you probably know this particular scene. You know, the very end of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, that scene, and this is, you might even just know it as a meme, where the show is over and Will is standing in an empty living room in the home that they filmed the entire show. And he's just standing around like depressed.
Yes, I have seen
the house.
that. Yeah.
The house is empty. This place that I love is empty. That's where Clemson fans are going to be next week.
Oof.
Living in an empty mansion.
Ugh.
Put it that way. I think that is a good analogy for this Clemson football fan base right now. You're living in an empty mansion. You've got a beautiful facility. You've got a great location. You got a great stadium. You have all this prestige built up around you, and then there's no substance on the inside.
Well, you've got to change that. And look, at this point, I don't know. And I talk to a lot of Clemson fans. I have a lot of friends of mine who are diehard Clemson fans that I talk to almost on an almost daily basis. And what's really funny, what's really comical now to this point is, if you ask Clemson fans right now today, and for any out there listening on the stream as well, watching on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, what's the fix? Like, what's the answer? Clemson fans have a very hard time answering that question. What is the answer? When I said things on Twitter last week, people came back at me and said, well, who are you going to replace Dabo with? Who are you going to hire? Who are you going to go get that's better than Dabo? That's where we are. We don't even know what the fix is. Clemson fans know they're a good team, but Clemson fans also know that they're nothing better than a good team. And at some points during the course of a season, you look like a really good team, but you have learned that, like I've said a million times, who you play really matters when it comes to how you look, right? You and I were there. They looked really good against App State. But, Diesel, that was 1 week. 1 week after they got beat by Georgia and a second half where they were not competitive.
And they looked really good against ultimately a really bad App State. This is not – App State's in a very similar situation.
Yeah.
Where you've had great teams in the past, and this year just ain't it.
Mm-mm.
But also, Cole, as we talked about yesterday, Clemson hadn't played anybody with a winning record outside of Georgia and Louisville, right? They played one of the weakest possible schedules that they could have. And no, it's not their fault. They didn't put together the schedule, but they need to find a way, Cole, with the ACC office to make sure the projected best teams play each other every year. Now, Florida State certainly didn't help them falling off the cliff the way that they did.
Did they fall off?
Louisville didn't help them, obviously. I mean, obviously it hurt them to lose to Louisville, but Louisville lost more games early than they were expected to.
Yep.
And so they didn't have 6-7 win teams or, low loss teams on their schedule throughout the season. And hey, that's why I think it's a good idea for the ACC and the Big 12 to try to team up and have a flex scheduling model. But if you want to call it week 8, week 9 of the season.
Yeah, but that won't help Clemson. All it'll do is expose them more. It'll just expose them.
Or it'll force them to do something to win those games.
And I don't know that they're going to. That's the problem. I'm with you. I would like to see better competition, but that's my whole point on I'd love for Clemson to be in the ACC or in the SEC, now, yesterday, so you can learn how good you are, because people don't realize, man, I've had the conversation a million times about Clemson's championship runs in 16 and 18 and how those runs would have been if they played in the SEC. I've had that conversation a million times. However, people who don't watch SEC football on a consistent week in and week out basis and pull for teams in that conference don't realize you cannot hide deficiencies there. You can't go in the SEC and have a deficiency here or there and act like everything's okay. You get exposed in the SEC, and Clemson's getting exposed against Georgia. Twice now they've played, 2 times in a row. They can't even score a touchdown on them, Diesel. Yeah. You're getting exposed by Louisville. Who knows if you'll beat South Carolina? If it were to be played right now, I'd say no.
If that's the case, then Clemson needs to find a way to schedule a second SEC team every year. Instead of playing the Furmans and the Woffords of the world, and I understand a gentleman's agreement to play those teams every year, but Clemson needs to make it a point to play better competition in their out of conference. So, this year, instead of scheduling App State, instead of scheduling Citadel, you need to be scheduling another SEC team. And I understand that they played Georgia and South Carolina this year, but that's not the case every single year. I understand next year they've got LSU and South Carolina. Keep it up. Keep playing SEC teams. Schedule Ole Miss. Schedule Texas A&M. Schedule these teams every single year. You got to have the tough competition every single year to show you where you really are, instead of coasting through the ACC and getting all the way to the playoff and then getting blown out. When we come back, Cole, let's keep it kind of on this same vein of conversation. But after the big news today about Billy Napier being retained at Florida, the question I want to talk about next, who ultimately will stay at their respective schools longer? Dabo, Shane, or Billy? Ooh. That's next. Tolos, this is your last call to get us your Upset Picks Challenge picks for today. 71307 is our text line. Start your text with keyword fan, and then text us your name, your game, and the spread. You're trying to pick a betting underdog to win the game.
It's real easy.
Right.
Real easy to do.
Not for you.
No, it's
real easy to get a pick in. It's really hard to get a correct pick.
That's correct. That's true.
Brandon from Moore took Michigan plus 14.5 against Indiana. So did you. Brandon in Spartanburg. How about that? You said this off the air. It's funny. What are the odds that Brandon in Spartanburg and Brandon in Moore text in back to back with their upset picks?
They probably know each other. They probably know each other. Say, hey, let's text in our upset picks. They probably coordinated.
All you Brandons have like a group chat.
They probably do. Yeah.
Brandon,
you don't have a group chat with other diesels?
No, I don't.
Oh, you need one.
No,
you should.
So I took Cole. I went big, and I think I'm the only person who's taken this one. I took Arkansas State over Louisiana in a rivalry game. That one's worth 16.5 points, man. If I hit on that one, I'm feeling really good.
If you hit on that one,
myself.
I'm out of this. You know what? I'm out. See y'all. I'm done. I'm not playing anymore. I'm taking my ball and going home.
I would be at 42.5, 43 points with that one, Cole. And theoretically, that could push me into the top 10.
Why are we so low on pick? I mean, Dan B had to call into the show earlier and
call out
demand. I mean, what is it? We've never had this. Is election? People just
that's a good question.
Enthralled with the election, upset their
candidate.
Think
they're all watching. They're all getting ready for Thursday night Sunbelt action.
Well, they need to text in their upset pick.
Yeah.
Listen, get over it. Your candidate didn't win. Text it in. Upset picks is more important than the election results. Let's go. We need you.
Yeah, we're gonna need some a big late push, like a big walk-up crowd tomorrow. Cole, so the question that I asked to go into the break here was, we have about 3 minutes left on the show. Who's going to be at their school longer? Dabo at Clemson, Shane Beamer at South Carolina, or Billy Napier at Florida?
What's D? Neither. All three.
No, Billy Napier just got a vote of confidence.
He did.
For another year at Florida.
That's a tough one, man.
Shane Beamer, look, anything could happen with South Carolina, right? The only consistent is inconsistency, and right now things are riding high. You're feeling good about yourself. But Cole, like we said, with the new AD coming in, what if he decides that Shane's not his guy? What if he decides that 7 wins isn't where he wants his program to be? I mean, I think if we had to put these as a 1, 2, 3, longest, medium, shortest, longest I think is gonna be Shane Beamer.
I 100% agree. Shane Beamer will be there the longest.
Yeah, he's going to keep getting them, the big wins every now and again that keep people feeling good about him. He's got his defense figured out. Dowell Loggins, they can make an improvement there, but who knows? Maybe Dowell has figured something out. So I think Shane Beamer's going to be there the longest. And if I had to put a number on that, I'd say Shane Beamer's probably going to be there for 5 more years at least. Mm-hmm. At least. Yeah. Dabo Swinney, I think he's getting tired of this, man. I think he's getting tired of this. I think Dabo is going to be gone within 3.
Ooh, I don't know about 3. I'd say 5. I think Dabo probably has 3 to 5 left, depending on. I don't know how it happens, but I'd say 3 to 5 for Dabo. I do think 5+ for Shane. I think Shane Beamer is the right guy. I've said it multiple times. And then Billy, swan song next year, right?
They can give him this vote of confidence and then just snatch it right away.
Yeah, well, I mean, right? What are you going to do next year? Even a tough schedule and all you're relying on is your one good player you have. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Billy proves us wrong, man. I mean, at the end of the day, it's Florida. You got to win. If you don't win next year, I mean, I don't know. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Billy.
What do? You keep him around? I don't think so. Speaking of bye, it's been a fantastic show. I will see you either tomorrow or when you're coming back from vacation. You're going on a little vacay next week.
Staycationing, okay? Don't make a big deal out of it. But I'm playing in a golf tournament next Friday.
I like that. Yeah. I like that. I will see you soon. I may not be here tomorrow, but I'll let you know. Either way, Tolos, I'll see you very soon.